Chapter 2668. Ji Fei and the mysterious underworld saintess walked on a small path beside the green bamboo lake. The two of them didn't talk much. Although they were friends, they didn't have that kind of romantic relationship. Furthermore, during this reunion, the mysterious underworld saintess realized that she could no longer see through Ji Fei's cultivation. Ji Fei gave her a feeling that he was unreachable. "Did you come to the Eastern Territory this time to settle the score with that old fellow Yuan Jiyu?" The mysterious underworld saintess walked into a pavilion beside the lake while Ji Fei followed her. She knew very well that Ji Fei definitely wasn't there to look for her. "Yes." Ji Fei nodded without saying much. The mysterious underworld saintess was well aware of the various grievances he had with the primordial heavenly the Arch. The primordial heavenly Theacher's only son, the Purple Emperor, had died at his hands. The primordial heavenly the Arch had also tried to kill Ji Fei. Although the mysterious underworld saintess knew that Ji Fei wasn't there to look for her and was already mentally prepared, she still felt a little disappointed when she saw Ji Fei nod. "Count me in. I have wanted to beat up that old fellow Yuan Jiyu for a long time," the mysterious underworld saintess said fiercely. The enmity between her and the primordial heavenly the Arch couldn't be resolved. It would only end when one side was completely destroyed by the other. Ji Fei smiled. He could see through the mysterious underworld saintess' cultivation at a glance. The mysterious underworld saintess hadn't been in vain all these years. She had actually become a saint. However, the primordial heavenly the Arch was a sacred venerate existence. Even 10 or 100 mysterious underworld saintesses wouldn't be a match for the primordial heavenly the Arch. "I know that given my current cultivation, I wouldn't even be able to touch that old fellow's clothes before I would be killed. I'm not willing to accept this." The mysterious underworld saintess sighed. "As long as you have an invincible heart, you will definitely become an invincible powerhouse." Ji Fei looked at the mysterious underworld saintess and said seriously. The mysterious underworld saintess looked at Ji Fei. When her eyes met Ji Fei's, she couldn't help but feel moved. However, at that moment, a green-clothed female follower passed through the bamboo forest and arrived at the pavilion by the lake. She bowed to the Xianming saintess. "Your Highness, the Great Elder requests your presence," the green-clothed female follower said. "What?" The Xianming saintess was a little surprised when she heard that. Why was Wu Chu looking for her now? She knew that Wu Chu was interested in her, but it was a pity that Wu Chu wasn't her type. "Let me take a look. You can walk around here first. The scenery here is pretty good." The mysterious underworld saintess pondered for a moment before speaking to Ji Fei. "Yes." Ji Fei nodded and turned to look at the lake. The Xianming saintess walked out of the pavilion and followed the green-robed disciple. They left Green Bamboo Lake and headed for Xianming City. On the other hand, Ji Fei was quite relaxed. The scenery of Green Bamboo Lake was pretty good. Actually, what surprised him the most was that there was an earth vein under Green Bamboo Lake. The concentration of the spirit energy there was higher than anywhere else in this small realm. This small realm was pretty good. The earth vein had already condensed, and it was ready to transform into a perfect great realm. Ji Fei didn't know what had happened in the Xianming sect. The Xianming saintess hadn't returned for a long time, so he could only wander around Green Bamboo Lake. Meanwhile, the Great Elder was confronting the saintess in the Xianming City Lord residence. "Wu Chu, you're too much." The Xianming saintess pointed at Great Elder Wu Chu and shouted. "Your Highness, mind your attitude," the black-bearded Daoist said coldly. "Me. You should mind your attitude." The Xianming saintess glanced at the black-bearded Daoist and said disdainfully. This fellow was simply Wu Chu's follower. "You," the black-bearded Daoist's expression became unfriendly. "What's so good about that kid? Why do you like that gigolo?" The Great Elder Wu Chu said unwillingly. "Who are you calling a gigolo?" The Xianming saintess suddenly smiled playfully. Wu Chu seemed to be jealous. It was a good opportunity for Ji Fei to put him down a notch. Hence, the Xianming saintess didn't mention Ji Fei's background. "All right, stop quarreling. What a scandal." The white-haired old man tried to persuade them. Get lost. The black-bearded Daoist didn't give the old man any face, which made the old man furious. This damned fellow actually told him to get lost. He was too despicable. Wu Chu, our Xianming sect is about to be annihilated, yet you still have the mood to think about these things. It seems like the heavens really want our Xianming sect to be annihilated. The Xianming Saintess said worriedly. The Saintess is right. We were defeated by our own people, not by that old Yuan Jiyu. The old man said. If you agree, you will be the new sect master of the Xianming sect, Wu Chu said, unwilling to give up. As the great elder of the Xianming sect, he could support the Xianming Saintess to become the new sect master of the Xianming sect. Don't even think about it. Just give up, the Xianming Saintess said ruthlessly. The Xianming Saintess said ruthlessly. She didn't want to give the other party any hope. Once she gave the other party hope, this guy would never stop. You. Very good. Wu Chu's gaze gradually turned cold as he looked at the Xianming Saintess. This woman could only be his. If he couldn't have her, he definitely wouldn't let her off easily. It was normal for love to turn into hatred. Of course I'm very good. I don't need you to tell me that. The Xianming Saintess turned around disdainfully and walked towards the door of the main hall. She wanted to leave this place. However, Wu Chu waved his hand and the entire City Lord residence was instantly sealed. Even if the Xianming Saintess wanted to rush out, it wouldn't be an easy task. Wu Chu was a sage king. His cultivation was one realm higher than the Xianming Saintess. If he used force, even the Xianming Saintess wouldn't be able to resist. However, this fellow thought highly of himself and didn't want to use force. However, it was different now. When Jiyu Fei appeared, Wu Chu felt that the relationship between Jiyu Fei and the Xianming Saintess wasn't shallow. Wu Chu instinctively felt that his rival in love had appeared. Hence, he had already regarded Jiyu Fei as his rival. Hence, he naturally showed hostility towards Jiyu Fei. Trying to leave. Wu Chu attacked immediately. Wu Chu, what are you trying to do? The Xianming Saintess didn't expect that Wu Chu would attack her. This made her shocked and angry. Wu Chu, you're too much. Even the old man couldn't stand it anymore. Wu Chu was really lawless. He actually dared to trap the Saintess in the main hall. Me. Shut up. Wu Chu pointed at the old man and shouted. You. Chapter 2669. The great elder of the Xianming sect suddenly attacked and sealed the main hall of the City Lord's mansion. This shocked everyone in the main hall, including the black-bearded Daoist. Is this guy really willing to do anything just to get the Saintess? While the black-bearded Daoist was shocked, he couldn't help but be cautious. If the great elder and the Saintess fought, he would be implicated. Wu Chu, do you really want to betray the sect? The white-haired old man pointed at Wu Chu and said loudly, HMPH, betray the sect? Elder Yang, you are exaggerating. Wu Chu slowly stood up from his seat and said nonchalantly. The old man was called Yang Kuan, and he was one of the 3 remaining great elders of the Xianming sect. Wu Chu was originally a small elder of the Xianming sect, but he wasn't as qualified as Elder Yang Kuan. However, Wu Chu was really lucky. When the chaotic family clan appeared, he had a fortuitous encounter in the chaotic world and his cultivation had improved greatly. After coming out of the chaotic family clan, he appeared in the Eastern Land with a domineering attitude. He became the great elder of the Xianming sect, who was second only to one and above all. Ever since he had become the great elder of the Xianming sect, Wu Chu's desire for power had reached the point of obsession. The desire in his heart had expanded infinitely. He wanted to rule over everything, including the Xianming sect. You imprisoned the Saintess. Isn't that betraying the sect? Yang Kuan said angrily. The Saintess had a high status in the Xianming sect. She could even compete with the great elder. She was the symbol of purity and flawlessness in the Xianming sect. Haha, Elder Yang, you must be joking. I just want the Saintess to stay in the main hall for a while. After I settle some matters, the Saintess can naturally leave this place. Wu Chu said with a smile. His face had a hint of fierceness, and his eyes were filled with malice. HMPH, you want to find trouble with that person? I think you should give up on this idea as soon as possible. The Xianming saintess sneered as she looked at Wu Chu with disdain in her eyes. You, the saintess' gaze pierced Wu Chu deeply. He couldn't accept being looked down upon by the woman he liked. The muscles on his face twitched uncontrollably. Kill. A deep roar came from Wu Chu's throat. In the next moment, his figure instantly disappeared into the void. He had actually escaped. Great Elder, the black-bearded Daoist seemed to have thought of something and felt a little uneasy. He was a black tiger that had attained the Tao and cultivated into a human. He should have walked the path of an overlord, but this black tiger Daoist was an extremely cautious person. Xianming Saintess was too calm. Could it be that this person was stronger than Great Elder Wu Chu? The black-bearded Daoist black tiger thought of something. Wu Chu is too much. Yang Kuan said angrily. He is courting death. The Xianming Saintess said indifferently. What? Black Tiger Daoist was shocked when he heard this. He looked at the Xianming Holy Lady in disbelief. It seemed like the situation was more serious than he had imagined. At this moment, the void in front of the pavilion by the green bamboo lake suddenly distorted. A figure seemed to pass through a layer of ripples and directly walked out of the void. Jiyu Fei, who was in the pavilion, turned around and saw a jade-like middle-aged man staring at him with a murderous look. His eyes were as vicious as a poisonous snake. The saintess is mine. Who do you think you are? How dare you snatch my woman? Wu Chu stared at Jiyu Fei in the pavilion and said fiercely. A cold murderous aura spread from his body. He wanted to kill Jiyu Fei. In the world of cultivation, the weak were prey to the strong. To the strong, the weak were like ants. If they were killed, then so be it. In Wu Chu's eyes, he was naturally the strong. When Jiyu Fei heard Wu Chu's words, he scratched his head. He did not know what this guy was talking about. It was really strange. Come out and die. Wu Chu stood in the air and an incomparably strong aura of a sage erupted from his body. The void around him immediately shook. The aura of a sage spread throughout the small world very quickly. All the living creatures in the small world were trembling in fear. Sage ruler. Jiyu Fei walked out from the pavilion. His body did not emit any aura and he looked like an ordinary person. However, under the pressure of a sage ruler, his expression did not change. At this moment, Wu Chu felt that something was wrong. He was not stupid. Otherwise, he would not have cultivated to the sage ruler realm and become the great elder of the Xianming sect. You said that I snatched your woman. Jiyu Fei tilted his head and looked at Wu Chu. You deserve to die. Wu Chu waved his hand and a dazzling sword light immediately rushed out from his hand and slashed towards Jiyu Fei. Wherever the sword light passed, a pitch-black crack appeared in the void. The stability of the small world of the Xianming sect was naturally not as stable as the heaven realm. Even a sage ruler could easily tear the void. However, when the extremely sharp sword light was 3 feet away from Jiyu Fei, it suddenly disappeared without a trace. It was as if it had never appeared. What? Seeing this scene, Wu Chu's eyeballs almost fell out of their sockets. His opponent was stronger and more terrifying than he had imagined. Who was this person? At this moment, Wu Chu could not help but be moved. You want to kill me? Jiyu Fei smiled and said to Wu Chu. Yes, so what? Wu Chu gritted his teeth and said. He was shocked and angry. His opponent was not as weak as he had imagined. However, he could not get off the tiger now. You don't even know who I am and you want to kill me. The smile on Jiyu Fei's face disappeared. This person's killing intent was very strong. If it was an ordinary sage, he would probably be in trouble. Isn't it normal for a dragon to squash an ant to death? Wu Chu said disapprovingly. In your eyes, you're the giant dragon, and I'm the ant in your mouth. Jiyu Fei said indifferently. This person was too arrogant. It seemed that this person could not be left alive. A person who kills the innocent is not worthy of sympathy. Of course. Wu Chu said proudly. Ha, Jiyu Fei laughed. What are you laughing at? Wu Chu said coldly as he stared at Jiyu Fei with a venomous gaze, like a venomous snake staring at its prey, ready to pounce on Jiyu Fei at any time. I am laughing at you for being a pig. Ji Yufei pointed at Wu Chu and said. What? Wu Chu was infuriated. Kill. Without any hesitation, Wu Chu made his move. As he waved his hands, an incomparably powerful force surged out from his hands. 9 Dao patterns intertwined and turned into a pitch-black vortex, intending to devour Ji Yufei. Courting death. You really are a pig. Ji Yufei put away his smile and punched out. The primal chaos fist pierced through the black vortex that was trying to devour Wu Chu. In an instant, it grew infinitely larger in Wu Chu's eyes. Bang! Wu Chu only felt his vision go black as his right eye took a heavy punch. Suddenly, the world spun around him and he almost fell to the ground. His entire eye socket was bruised black. You didn't check your opponent's background before attacking. If you aren't a pig, what are you? Ji Yufei said as he took a step forward, closing in on Wu Chu and punched out with lightning speed. Bang! Wu Chu's left eye was hit. This time, he was sent flying and smashed into the ground. His left eye was also hit by Ji Yufei, turning into a panda eye. I am really a pig. Wu Chu was going crazy. His opponent was too strong. He had kicked an iron board this time. If Lin Fan wanted to kill him, it would be as easy as flipping his palm. Who is the dragon and who is the ant? Now it's obvious. Ji Yufei walked up and kicked Wu Chu's dantian, instantly crippling his cultivation. Wu Chu fell to the ground like a pile of mud. He was dumbfounded. His cultivation was crippled. He couldn't accept this. "Mph, it's good enough that I didn't take your life," Ji Yufei said. He didn't care about Wu Chu anymore and left Green Bamboo Lake. He came to the sky above Shenming City and released his divine will. In an instant, the situation of the entire Shenming City appeared in his mind. Even the most minute details were no exception. Sure enough, the City Lord's mansion of Mystic Dark City was sealed by a force. It was the doing of the fellow whose cultivation he had just crippled. Ji Yufei flew down from the sky and arrived above the mayor's mansion. To him, breaking a Sage King level seal was as easy as flipping his hand. Buzz! The void shook, and a giant hand of chaos appeared in the sky above the City Lord's office. Then, it smashed downwards and destroyed the 9 Dao patterns that were sealing the City Lord's office in the void. Swoosh! As soon as the seal of the mayor's mansion was broken by Ji Yufei, a figure dashed out of the mayor's mansion. It was the Shenming Saintess. Haha, just as I expected. The Shenming Saintess laughed when she saw Ji Yufei. Wu Chu was really unlucky. However, the Shenming Saintess never expected that Ji Yufei would cripple Wu Chu's cultivation and turn him from a Sage King to an ordinary person. Then, Black Tiger Taoist and Elder Yang Kuan dashed out of the mayor's mansion. Where is Wu Chu? Yang Kuan had always disliked Wu Chu. He wanted an explanation from Wu Chu. How dare he trap him and the Saintess in the mayor's mansion? That was outrageous. At this moment, Black Tiger Daoist took a deep look at Ji Yufei and flew towards Green Bamboo Lake. Soon, Black Tiger Daoist returned. He brought back a cripple. This cripple was their Grand Elder, Wu Chu. Chapter 2670. The news that the Great Elder of the Shenming sect had been crippled caused an uproar in Shenming City. All the Shenming sect disciples in the city were in disbelief. The high and mighty Great Elder, the Great Elder whom they revered as a god, had not only been defeated by someone, but also had his cultivation crippled. All the Shenming sect disciples felt as though their sky had collapsed. All these years, the Great Elder was their belief. As long as the Great Elder and the Saintess were around, the Shenming sect would not disappear. However, the Great Elder, one of the 2 pillars of the Shenming sect, had been crippled. All the Shenming sect disciples in Shenming City could not accept this fact. Soon, there were signs of chaos in Shenming City. However, unexpectedly, the Saintess suppressed the chaos that was about to erupt. She even forbade the Shenming sect disciples from finding trouble with Ji Yufei. Saintess, how could this happen? That person crippled the Great Elder. We must avenge him. That's right. We must avenge the Great Elder. Indignant and angry roars could be heard in Shenming City. Wu Chu reaped what he sowed. He imprisoned the saintess with the intention of betraying the sect. We're already letting him off easy by not killing him. Very soon, different voices could be heard in Xianming City. This was definitely an explosive one. How could Great Elder Wu Chu have imprisoned the saintess? With Elder Yang Kuan as a witness, how could it be fake? Someone said. What? All the Xianming sect disciples in Xianming City were stunned. It should be known that Yang Kuan was one of the 3 remaining elders of the Xianming sect. Since he had come out to testify, it seemed like this matter was not groundless. In the end, Elder Yang Kuan stood out and accused Wu Chu of imprisoning the saintess with the intention of betraying the sect. This caused an uproar among the Xianming sect disciples. How could the Great Elder? After the initial shock, countless Xianming sect disciples were furious. It should be known that the saintess was the symbol of purity in the eyes of countless Xianming sect disciples. She could not be desecrated. Thus, Jiyu Fei turned from an evil person who crippled the Great Elder to a great hero who saved the saintess from the Great Elder's demonic claws. Of course, the protagonist of this incident, Jiyu Fei, did not care about the change in his identity. He also did not care about how the people from the Xianming sect viewed him. Meanwhile, the Xianming saintess was sitting on a throne in the City Lord mansion. Jiyu Fei sat lazily on the lower seat. Saintess, you're going to be the sect leader. Yang Kuan and Black Tiger Daoist were extremely shocked by the mysterious underworld saintess decision. There had never been a saintess who had become the sect master in the mysterious underworld sect. Of course, there was no written rule in the mysterious dark sect that the sect saintess could not be the sect leader. Isn't he just the sect leader of the Xianming sect? Little girl, don't be too serious. Jiyu Fei said lazily. When Yang Kuan and the Black Tiger Taoist heard Jiyu Fei's words, black lines appeared on their heads. However, when they thought about how Wu Chu was crippled by this person, they did not dare to say anything. However, calling the saintess a little girl was too much. Brother Jiyu, you promised me that you would help me, you know? The mysterious underworld saintess was not the least bit displeased. There was no doubt that Jiyu Fei was powerful. Most importantly, he also had a feud with the Eastern Land Celestial the Arch, Yuan Jiyu. This was very important. Alright, since you want to be the sect leader, then be it. Jiyu Fei said indifferently. Alright, I hope no one objects to me being the sect leader. The mysterious underworld saintess looked at Black Tiger Taoist and Yang Kuan as she spoke. The Black Tiger Taoist and Yang Kuan naturally had nothing to say. How would they dare to say anything in the presence of this killing god? They had seen Wu Chu's fate with their own eyes. Wu Chu was a sage monarch who was much more powerful than them. If he had been crippled by Jiyu Fei, what were they? Very well, then announce it to the sect members. The mysterious underworld saintess said. Yes, saintess, sect leader. Yang Kuan turned around helplessly and walked out. Very soon, the mysterious underworld city was in an uproar again. The saintess had actually become the sect leader. This was definitely something that no one had expected. In the history of the mysterious underworld sect, there had never been a saintess who had become the sect leader. However, there was also no rule that a saintess couldn't become the sect leader. Most of the sect members felt that there was nothing wrong with the saintess becoming the sect leader. At least there would be someone to lead everyone. At the moment, only Jiyu Fei and the mysterious underworld saintess were left in the City Lord Palace. This is all the mysterious underworld sect has. Jiyu Fei said lazily. Yes, it's already good enough that it wasn't destroyed by that old man Yuan Jiyu. The mysterious underworld saintess sighed. This was the last realm of the 13 mysterious underworld realms. If this realm was destroyed by Yuan Jiyu, then the mysterious underworld sect would really be finished. Hee. I really don't care about the chips in your hands. Jiyu Fei said. This realm of the mysterious underworld sect was not as good as his own inner realm. Furthermore, the only experts in this realm were the mysterious underworld saintess, the Black Tiger Taoist, and Elder Yang Kuan. The mysterious underworld sect only had 3 saints. However, Jiyu Fei alone was more powerful than the entire mysterious underworld sect. However, do you understand the current Eastern Territory? The mysterious underworld saintess asked. I don't. Gu Fei said. Therefore, you still have to rely on me. The mysterious underworld sect is still useful to you. The mysterious underworld saintess was very straightforward. If Gu Fei wasn't useful, he definitely wouldn't have stayed in the mysterious underworld sect. He would have left long ago. He really didn't understand the current Eastern Territory. If he wanted to deal with the Eastern Territory celestial ruler, he would really have to rely on the mysterious underworld sect to understand the situation there. Very well. How's the investigation going? Gu Fei couldn't help but nod. This mysterious underworld saintess was really smart. Could she see through his thoughts? She was really good at reading people's expressions. The mysterious underworld saintess then told him everything she knew. The ancient celestial ruler had countless clones, so no one knew when he would appear in his true body. Even the people closest to him didn't know. It was almost impossible to destroy the ancient celestial ruler's true body. The ancient celestial ruler was probably the most mysterious emperor in the heavenly realm. Alright, then get ready. I want to wreak havoc in Celestial City. After hearing this, Gu Fei thought for a moment and said this. What? The mysterious underworld saintess' eyes lit up when she heard this. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to deal a heavy blow to the ancient celestial ruler's power. When? The mysterious underworld saintess asked excitedly. She couldn't maintain her composure. Even in her dreams, she wanted to counterattack and deal a heavy blow to the ancient celestial ruler. The mysterious underworld sect had been too sullen all these years. Whenever you say so. Gu Fei said indifferently. Alright, alright. The mysterious underworld saintess naturally understood the meaning behind Gu Fei's words. Thus, she immediately mobilized all the power of the mysterious underworld sect. A starving camel was still bigger than a horse. Although the mysterious underworld sect had declined to this extent, it still had a lot of power in the Eastern Territory. Very soon, news about the ancient celestial ruler of the Eastern Territory was transmitted to the mysterious underworld sect. Half a month passed. Gu Fei had been cultivating by the green bamboo lake all this time. No one dared to disturb him, so the green bamboo lake had become a forbidden area in the mysterious underworld sect. Given Gu Fei's current state, he could trigger a sacred venerate heavenly tribulation at any time. However, he felt that he couldn't waste this tribulation. Wasn't the ancient celestial ruler very powerful? Then, I shall undergo my tribulation in your lair. Let's see what you can do to me then. Gu Fei was waiting for news from the mysterious underworld saintess. He believed that she would tell him when the most suitable time to undergo his tribulation was. The days were very peaceful. One day, Gu Fei got a fishing rod from somewhere and sat on a big rock by the lake. He wore a bamboo hat and fished. The lake water was so clear that the bottom could be seen. Fishes swam around but didn't take the bait. However, Gu Fei wasn't fishing for the sake of fishing. Suddenly, a figure appeared silently behind Gu Fei. It was a masked woman in black. She was the mysterious underworld saintess. You still have the leisure to fish here? The mysterious underworld saintess said. It's time. Gu Fei didn't stand up. He just sat there and fished. That's right. The birds are all returning to their nests. The mysterious underworld saintess sounded a little nervous. After all, this wasn't a small matter. It would be great if she could seriously injure the ancient celestial ruler. She wanted to let the ancient celestial ruler know that the mysterious underworld sect wasn't to be trifled with. Very well, it's time to go out and take a walk. Gu Fei put away his fishing rod and removed the bamboo hat on his head. He carefully placed the fishing rod and the bamboo hat beside him before standing up. Then, Gu Fei left the small world of the mysterious underworld sect. Celestial City was very lively at this time. All the immortal generals had returned. Tomorrow was a big day, so all the immortal generals who were stationed outside had returned to Celestial City. Tomorrow was the birthday of the ancient celestial ruler. Every year, Celestial City would be packed with people at this time. Not only would the powerhouses under the ancient celestial ruler come, But even the factions that had good relations with the ancient celestial ruler would also send envoys to congratulate him. Tomorrow is the birthday of my son, Ancient Yuan. This couldn't be any better. Jiu Fei appeared on top of a stone mountain only 1,000 miles away from Celestial City. He could conceal his aura, so no one could sense his presence. He had heard the news. He could still wait for one day. He had already waited for half a month, so one more day wouldn't make a difference. Jiu Fei found a place to sit down and quietly waited for the arrival of the next day. His mind was very calm, without any sadness or joy. His entire being was in an ethereal state. A day passed in the blink of an eye for cultivators. The sun rose from the east and the sunlight shone on the earth. Jiu Fei didn't move from his position on the stone mountain. Noon arrived, but Jiu Fei still didn't plan to make a move. Chapter 2671. As night fell, Celestial City was bustling with noise and excitement. Today was the birthday of the ancient Heavenly the Arch, so all the experts who were on good terms with the ancient Heavenly the Arch had come to congratulate him. Celestial City was overflowing with people, and the atmosphere was festive. The truly important figures were all gathered in the Celestial Palace. The ancient Heavenly the Arch was sitting on his throne in the main hall of the palace, chatting happily with the guests. The Flame Emperor had personally come, and even the Barbarian Emperor had sent a congratulatory gift. Just as the host and guests were enjoying themselves, a faint rumble of thunder came from the sky. Very quickly, the big shots in the Celestial Palace felt that something was wrong. How is this possible? The Flame Emperor had a strange expression on his face. How could something like this happen in this place at this time? Could it be that someone was actually transcending their tribulation here? At this time, the ancient Heavenly Theater's expression turned gloomy. Tong Shou, go out and see what's going on, the primordial Heavenly Emperor said to a young cultivator in silver armor who was waiting on him. Yes. The young warrior named Tong Shou immediately accepted the order and was about to go out. However, at this time, a dazzling bolt of lightning struck down from the sky, heading straight for the Celestial Palace. This bolt of lightning was as large as a mountain, bringing with it a terrifying aura of destruction. Buzz! The Heaven Sovereign Palace let out a rumbling sound. Then, a ball of immortal light rushed out from the Heaven Sovereign Palace and instantly enveloped the entire Heaven Sovereign Palace. Boom! The bolt of lightning as large as a mountain struck the layer of immortal light that enveloped the Celestial Palace. Electric light circulated as immortal runes appeared on the layer of immortal light. The bolt of lightning was blocked by the immortal light. What's going on? What's going on? Everyone in the Celestial Palace was shocked to the extreme. Some of the big shots had gloomy expressions. This was the power of the heavenly tribulation. Someone was attracting the heavenly tribulation. Someone actually came here to transcend their tribulation. Is he courting death? Someone said in horror. One should know that this was the lair of the ancient Heavenly the Arch. Moreover, today was the birthday of the ancient Heavenly the Arch. Someone actually jumped out at this time to cause trouble. This was simply a slap to the ancient Heavenly Theater's face. Swish! Just as the immortal light blocked the lightning, a silhouette appeared in the sky above Heaven Sovereign Palace. This was a young general clad in silver immortal armor. This young warrior was the Tongshu battle general who had been waiting beside the ancient Yuan Celestial the Arch. Tong Shou was one of the two most capable generals under the ancient Celestial the Arch. He had once fought for the ancient Celestial the Arch and conquered vast territories. Battle General Tong Shou and Divine Slaughter Shi had been viewed as the primordial Celestial Emperor's left and right arms. However, after Shi had fallen while attacking the Forbidden Region, Battle General Tong Shou had become the primordial Celestial Emperor's only trusted aide. Heavenly tribulation? Tong Shou raised his head and gazed into the depths of the sky. Runes interweaved in his eyes as an immensely powerful immortal aura radiated from his body. Rumble! Tribulation clouds were gathering, blocking the stars in the sky. Dazzling bolts of lightning constantly appeared, and a destructive aura that made the hearts of all living beings in the world palpitate descended from the sky. Tong Shou's expression changed. This wasn't an ordinary heavenly tribulation. The might of the world descending from the sky made his heart palpitate. It was as if he was being stared at by a terrifying ancient heavenly beast. Let's begin. At this time, Jiyu Fei, who was sitting cross-legged in the sky above Celestial City, completely released his aura. Bolts of primal chaos lightning appeared around his body. Boom! The explosion of the heaven realm came without any warning. A sea of lightning instantly appeared around Jiyu Fei's body. Countless lightning bolts interweaved with each other, and the terrifying destructive power was vast and mighty. The tribulation lightning directly broke through the void and bombarded from the primal chaos. This was the tribulation lightning of primal chaos, capable of destroying all living things in the world and even killing saints. Everyone in Celestial City and Celestial Palace was stunned. The tribulation lightning of primal chaos linked together and enveloped Celestial City and Celestial Palace in the sky. The Celestial City and the Celestial Palace were protected by the immortal Tao formation. Even the primordial chaos tribulation lightning wouldn't be able to break the immortal Tao formation in a short time. One must know that the immortal Tao formation in the Celestial City and the Celestial Palace was personally arranged by the primordial Heavenly Emperor. The primordial Heavenly Emperor was a heavenly sovereign-level existence, and Jiyu Fei wasn't a heavenly sovereign yet. Tribulation lightning of primal chaos, all the saints in Celestial City were dumbstruck. They felt very uneasy as they looked at the rampaging primal chaos lightning outside the city. One should know that this tribulation lightning could even turn saints into dregs. Good heavens, he actually attracted this level of tribulation lightning in an instant. High up in the sky, in the Celestial Palace that was also submerged by the tribulation lightning, a group of experts couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. The person undergoing the tribulation was very extraordinary. One should know that not everyone could attract the tribulation lightning of primal chaos during their tribulation. At this time, Tong Shou encountered quite a bit of trouble. He was besieged by the tribulation lightning outside the Celestial Palace. His silver immortal armor had been torn apart by the tribulation lightning on his body. He held the immortal sword in his hand, and 9 immortal runes rushed out from his body, blocking the tribulation lightning around him. Preposterous! How dare you come here to cause trouble? I want to see what kind of god you are. Tong Shou directly swooped down from the sky, breaking through the layers of tribulation lightning, and directly rushed towards the culprit who attracted the tribulation lightning. Break for me. Tong Shou directly slashed down with his sword. A resplendent sword light rushed out from the immortal sword in his hand, broke through the tribulation lightning, and directly fell towards Jiyu Fei's head. Heavenly Sovereign! Jiyu Fei raised his head and looked up, then stretched out his right hand and directly slapped upwards. Bang! The slashing sword light instantly collapsed under the attack of Jiyu Fei's palm. Rumble! Immediately after, a huge primordial hand appeared in the endless tribulation lightning, directly grabbing towards Tong Shou. Jiyu Fei drew the power of the tribulation for his own use, and actually grabbed Tong Shou in the huge primordial hand. Tribulation lightning of primordial chaos lingered on the huge hand. Roar! Tong Shou roared angrily. He was shocked and angry at the same time. He never thought that the other party would be so strong and capture him in one move. Could it be that the other party was a great sage? Thief, how dare you! A loud shout came from the Celestial Palace, and a huge purple hand grabbed down from the Celestial Palace. The huge hand covered the sky and earth, and even the tribulation lightning of primordial chaos collapsed under the huge hand. Ha ha! Yuan Jiyu, I will kill the person that you want to save. Jiyu Fei said while laughing. Then, he clenched his big hand and directly squeezed Tong Shou into a cloud of blood mist, directly destroying his body and soul. You deserve to die. Chapter 2672. The primordial celestial the Arch made his move. Immortal energy filled every inch of the void. The purple hand was like the hand of the heavens as it directly grabbed down from the sky. The purple hand broke through the tribulation lightning and grabbed Jiyu Fei. The primordial celestial the Arch wanted to give Jiyu Fei a taste of his own medicine. He wanted to kill Jiyu Fei in one move. Rumble! At that moment, an even more powerful tribulation lightning descended from the sky. It was a type of purple lightning with a spherical thunderfire that blasted towards Gu Fei. The purple thunderfire directly broke through the primordial celestial theater's purple hand and exploded it. The immortal Tao runes were scattered in the void by the purple thunderfire. Everyone was in disbelief. No one had expected a purple thunderball to descend from the sky. This type of tribulation lightning was extremely rare and had not appeared even once in tens of thousands of years. The ninth heaven lightning? At that moment, even the primordial celestial theater's expression became extremely solemn. The muscles on his face twitched involuntarily. Interesting, this kid can actually attract the ninth heaven lightning. The Fire Emperor glanced at the primordial celestial the Arch and said, "It seems like this guy is undergoing the heavenly sovereign tribulation." An old man said, "This guy actually dared to come here to undergo tribulation." Many people looked at the primordial celestial the Arch. They had already guessed that the guy who was undergoing tribulation definitely had a great feud with the primordial celestial the Arch. Otherwise, he wouldn't have done this to the primordial celestial the Arch. Moreover, the fact that this guy was undergoing tribulation here was a matter of life and death for everyone. One should know that when a cultivator underwent tribulation, the heavens would send down an unfathomable tribulation force. This kind of tribulation force was mysterious and unfathomable. It could ignite the tribulation fire of other cultivators and cause their tribulation to descend. For these cultivators who were not prepared to undergo tribulation, igniting the tribulation fire was absolutely courting death. At that moment, something terrible happened in Celestial City. Many cultivators were emitting the light of tribulation fire. This was a sign that the tribulation was about to descend. "I don't want to die," a cultivator shone as he soared into the sky from Celestial City. However, a bolt of tribulation lightning ignored the obstruction of the Celestial City's immortal light and directly descended on that cultivator's body. The cultivator was immediately blasted into pieces, his body and soul extinguished. What? Countless cultivators in the city were dumbfounded when they saw this. "Why is my body glowing?" One of the cultivators cried out in fear. However, before the cultivator could react, a bolt of tribulation lightning descended from the sky and blasted the cultivator into a mist of blood. What's going on? Why did the tribulation lightning fall on him? Many cultivators beside the cultivator who was struck to death by the tribulation lightning had witnessed this scene up close, and all of them were scared out of their wits. Could this be the power of tribulation guide? An older cultivator exclaimed in horror, his voice trembling. Inside Celestial City, all the cultivators were incomparably terrified. There were people whose bodies were glowing one after another, igniting the tribulation fire. One after another, tribulation lightning descended from the sky and killed all the cultivators who ignited the tribulation fire. For cultivators, the heavenly tribulation was a tribulation with a slim chance of survival. Even a well-prepared cultivator would most likely die when the heavenly tribulation descended. In the Celestial City, panic was spreading. In every corner of the Celestial City, there were cultivators who were directly killed by the tribulation lightning. Preposterous, high up in the sky, the primordial heavenly the Arch sensed what was happening in the Celestial City and couldn't help but be furious. This Gu Fei was truly too hateful. The power of tribulation guide filled every inch of the void. As long as a cultivator's cultivation had reached a bottleneck, they would ignite the tribulation fire and attract the heavenly tribulation. Even in the Celestial the Arch Palace, there were powerhouses who had ignited the tribulation fire and attracted the terrifying heavenly tribulation. Even sages were in imminent danger. However, sages were different from ordinary cultivators. They could seal their cultivation, so even the power of tribulation guide would find it difficult to ignite their tribulation fire. Rumble, thunder from the ninth heaven descended continuously from the sky. The layer of immortal light formed by the immortal formation protecting the Celestial the Arch Palace shook violently, showing signs of being torn apart by the thunder. The same was true for Celestial City on the ground. The immortal light that enveloped the entire city became unstable under the bombardment of the thunder. The power of this thunder was infinitely close to the power of a heavenly sovereign. Gu Fei sat cross-legged in the void and allowed the thunder to strike his body. He remained motionless as he borrowed the power of the tribulation to temper his body. Only Jiu Fei would do such a crazy thing. The purple lightning wandered around his body and even entered his body, tempering his flesh and bones. The lightning contained natural Dao runes. This was a part of the heavenly realm's flawless law of the heaven and earth. The thunder didn't only bring about destruction. Jiu Fei was comprehending and using the laws of the heavenly realm to complete his own Dao laws. In the depths of the sky, muffled thunderclaps resounded. The power of the thunder gradually weakened and disappeared after half an hour. At this time, panic was still spreading in the celestial city. No one knew how many cultivators in the city had their tribulation fire ignited and died under the tribulation lightning. In the Heavenly Emperor Palace, there were also many experts who had their tribulation fires ignited by the tribulation force. Some were very unlucky and died directly under the heavenly tribulation, but there were some who were incomparably strong and actually survived the heavenly tribulation, becoming even more powerful. "I'm going to kill that guy," the primordial celestial emperor roared. He took a step out of the celestial emperor palace and attacked Jiu Fei, who was sitting cross-legged in the void. The purple hand appeared again. The power of the immortal path surged violently. Runes appeared on the palm of the primordial celestial emperor, emitting an immortal light. Sky-covering palm, Jiu Fei, who was sitting cross-legged in the void, suddenly opened his eyes and slammed his palm towards the primordial celestial emperor. His palm enveloped the entire world. Boom! With a loud sound, Jiu Fei's sky-covering palm collided with the primordial celestial emperor's immortal path palm. The two supreme forces collided and cancelled each other out. A destructive storm spread out between the two. A series of pitch-black spatial cracks appeared in the void. The primordial celestial emperor's expression changed. His opponent hadn't passed the tribulation and wasn't a heavenly sovereign yet, but he could already contend against him. "You what? Do you want me to drag you into the tribulation?" Jiu Fei smiled and stood up from the void. At this time, his entire body was glowing. This was a sign that the tribulation was about to descend. Chapter 2673. Jiu Fei challenging the Yuan ancient celestial emperor caused everyone to be incomparably shocked, especially the Flame Emperor. What was the origin of this youth? He actually dared to challenge the Yuan ancient celestial emperor. One must know that the current Yuan ancient was the overlord of the Eastern Earth. The entire Eastern Territory was originally divided into 3 parts. However, after the ancient Yuan Heavenly Emperor destroyed the mysterious Dark Sect, he became the true overlord of the Eastern Territory of the Heaven Realm. The Golden-Eyed Divine Ape Clan had a small population. In the Eastern Territory, the Golden-Eyed Divine Ape Clan did not have much power and would never compete with the ancient Yuan Heavenly Emperor. It was not an exaggeration to say that the ancient Yuan Heavenly Emperor was the overlord of the Eastern Territory of the Heaven Realm. This was also the reason why the Flame Emperor was on good terms with the ancient Yuan Heavenly Emperor. At the same time, they also had a common enemy, the Southern Mountains God Emperor. The Southern Mountains God Emperor and the ancient Yuan Heavenly Emperor had always been at odds. The Southern Mountains God Emperor and the Flame Emperor were sworn enemies. It should be known that the Southern Mountains God Emperor was originally the ruler of the Southern Mountains. However, after the Flame Emperor was born, he snatched half of the Southern Mountains from the Southern Mountains. It could be said that the grudge between the Southern Mountains God Emperor and the ancient Yuan Heavenly Emperor had reached an irreconcilable point. The Flame Emperor did not know Jiu Fei. The Flame Emperor was born after Jiu Fei left the Heaven Realm. He did not know about the grudge between Jiu Fei and the ancient Yuan Heavenly Emperor. Rumble, at this moment, the world shook. From time to time, tribulation lightning would descend on the Heavenly Emperor Palace. Some people's bodies glowed and were directly blasted into ashes by the tribulation lightning. Not everyone could suppress their aura. If they were not careful and the tribulation fire was ignited by the tribulation lightning, they would attract the heavenly tribulation. In the Heavenly Emperor city on the ground, tribulation lightning descended from the sky. Every time a tribulation lightning flashed, a cultivator would be blasted into smithereens. A terrifying aura of destruction enveloped the entire world. The tribulation clouds in the sky were incomparably thick. As they pressed down from the sky, everyone could feel an incomparable pressure. Even sages were in danger, let alone other living beings. Ji Fei, you deserve to die. The ancient Yuan heavenly emperor roared. He rushed out of the heavenly emperor palace and charged towards Ji Fei. The mighty pressure of a holy venerate spread out and even overpowered the heavenly might descending from the sky. Boom! The void collapsed and turned into a destructive storm that directly crashed down towards Ji Fei. This was a destructive force that could tear apart the void. Humph! Ji Fei felt immense pressure. He had to deal with the heavenly tribulation and the primordial celestial the arch at the same time. He stood in the void, surrounded by purple lightning bolts. His battle intent was like a rainbow. He raised his head and looked up without any fear. Then, he punched upwards, and streaks of purple lightning gathered towards his fist. Rumble! Ji Fei's fist blasted out like a bolt of thunder from the 9 heavens, directly blasting apart the destructive force that swept down from the sky. Streaks of purple lightning that looked like purple dragons rushed towards the ancient Yuan celestial ruler. The primordial heavenly emperor was shocked to see that Ji Fei was able to draw the 9 heavens thunder for his own use. Such a method was too shocking. An ordinary great sage wouldn't dare to do this. Buzz! A layer of immortal light emerged from the ancient Yuan celestial theater's body. Boom! The 9 heavens thunder that collided directly with the layer of immortal light on the ancient Yuan celestial theater's body, displaying a powerful destructive force. However, the layer of immortal light on the ancient Yuan celestial theater's body was faintly intertwined with immortal runes, drawing upon the power of the Grand Tao and blocking the 9 heavens thunder. The immortal light around the ancient Yuan celestial theater's body vibrated, but it wasn't broken by the 9 heavens thunder. Is that all you've got? You're dead. The ancient Yuan celestial the arch stared at Ji Fei with a gloomy expression. A chilling murderous aura emanated from his body, causing the temperature of the entire world to drop rapidly. TCH Ji Fei gave the ancient Yuan celestial the arch the middle finger. Buzz! The ancient Yuan celestial the arch was furious. A sword chime came from his body, and then 9 immortal runes rushed out from his body, turning into a sword light that pierced towards Ji Fei. Every single streak of sword light cut through the void, able to cut down the stars in the sky. This was a Tao sword, possessing tremendous power. Die! Ji Fei's battle blood was boiling. He clenched his fists, and streaks of primal chaos Tao patterns surged on his fists, emitting the power of the great Tao. He waved his fists and smashed at the sword light that pierced through him. Everyone who saw this scene was stunned. Ji Fei actually dared to use his physical body to resist the ancient Yuan celestial theater's flying immortal Tao sword. He was really crazy. Clanging sounds rang out as Ji Fei's fist violently collided with the incomparably swift and fierce sword light, producing a metallic clang as if they were forging iron. Rumble! The heavenly tribulation was still operating, and dazzling purple lightning descended from the sky. Every single tribulation lightning struck Ji Fei's body. However, Ji Fei didn't seem to feel it at all. He still attacked with all his strength. A pair of primal chaos divine fists smashed away the 9 flying immortal Tao sword lights. With the power of his martial body and the power of his martial path battle techniques, Ji Fei could definitely compete with a sacred venerate. It should be known that his cultivation level was already infinitely close to that of a sacred venerate. As long as he succeeded in this tribulation, he would become a sacred venerate. Die! Ji Fei was like the reincarnation of a primal chaos god. He immediately appeared in front of the ancient Yuan celestial the arch and threw a punch at him. At that moment, the ancient Yuan celestial theater's figure suddenly became blurry. It was as if his entire body had instantly fused with the surrounding void. Ji Fei's punch seemed to have hit the air, as if it had not been affected at all. The 9 secrets of the immortal Tao. Ji Fei was shocked. He stabilized his figure and the power on his fist exploded, tearing through the void. He wanted to shake the ancient Yuan celestial the arch out of the void. The ancient Yuan celestial the arch also cultivated the immortal Tao, so he also knew a few of the 9 secrets of the immortal Tao. He used the anti-void secret technique and his body became a part of the world. His blurry figure completely disappeared. What? Jiyu Fei couldn't help but be shocked. The ancient Yuan Celestial the Arch had actually cultivated the anti-void secret technique to the level where he could disappear without a trace. This was very surprising. Swish! A beam of purple light emerged from between Jiyu Fei's eyebrows and a powerful wall spread out from between his eyebrows. Ripples that could be seen with the naked eye appeared in the void. Suddenly, a figure appeared behind Jiyu Fei without any warning and slammed a palm towards Jiyu Fei's back. Sword light pulsed from the palm. Just as the ancient Yuan Celestial Theater's palm was about to land on Jiyu Fei's body suddenly dimmed as if he had suddenly become transparent. What? The primordial Yuan Celestial the Arch was taken aback. His palm passed through Jiyu Fei's transparent figure as if it was hitting thin air. Swish! A beam of purple sword light tore through the void and slashed towards the ancient Yuan Celestial the Arch. Jiyu Fei was counterattacking. This was one of the 9 secrets of the immortal Tao, the sword of the primordial Tao. Even a heavenly venerate would be severely injured if they were struck by the sword of the primordial Tao. The ancient Yuan Celestial the Arch knew how powerful it was and hurriedly dodged. The 9 secrets of the immortal Tao. The Flame Emperor's eyes lit up when he saw this scene. The ancient Yuan Celestial the Arch had indeed mastered the 9 secrets of the immortal Tao, and Jiyu Fei had also mastered the 9 secrets of the immortal Tao. Since when had the 9 secrets of the immortal Tao become so common? The Flame Emperor found it unbelievable. The 9 secrets of the immortal Tao had been lost for countless years. He hadn't expected that they would appear again. It seemed that this life was really different from the others. The other powerhouses in the Celestial the Arch Palace were also shocked. That guy called Jiyu Fei could actually fight the ancient Yuan Celestial the Arch. This Jiyu Fei clearly wasn't a heavenly venerate. He wasn't a heavenly venerate, but he had the combat strength to contend against one. This was unbelievable. All of this seemed illusory and unreal to everyone. Furthermore, what made everyone uneasy was the fact that the tribulation summoning force in the world was becoming more and more powerful. Even some of the saints could barely suppress their own auras. What's going on? Is there going to be an even stronger tribulation coming? Someone muttered. This guy is too abnormal. Someone lamented. At this time, people were constantly being ignited by the tribulation fire in both the Celestial City and the Celestial the Arch Palace. 9 out of 10 of these people who were passively attracted to the tribulation met a tragic end. They were blasted to pieces by the tribulation, their bodies and souls destroyed. Chapter 2674. The heavenly tribulation continued. A terrifying aura of destruction descended from the depths of the sky. This was the heaven realm's tribulation, different from the one in the mortal world. The heaven realm's tribulation was much more powerful and terrifying than the one in the mortal world. It had to be known that the heaven realm was a truly flawless world with flawless laws. This was also why Jiyu Fei wanted to undergo his tribulation in the heaven realm. Buzz. Sword light hummed. At this moment, Jiyu Fei seemed to have turned into a supreme sword god. With a wave of his hand, sword light bloomed in the sky as if it could split the world in half. The primordial sword of Tao displayed its terrifying power. The sword light forced the ancient celestial emperor to constantly dodge, not daring to face Jiyu Fei head-on. Everyone was dumbfounded. After all, the ancient celestial emperor was a sword emperor, a saint of the sword Tao. With his soaring sword Tao, he had few opponents in the heaven realm. However, the sword Tao that the ancient celestial emperor was most proficient in had forced the ancient celestial emperor into such a sorry state. This was unbelievable. Their eyes almost fell out of their sockets. How is this possible? Someone actually used the sword to force the ancient celestial emperor into such a sorry state. The people in the celestial emperor palace were either great lords or supreme figures of the older generation. No one who could enter the celestial emperor palace was weak. These people were naturally discerning and quickly saw through the truth. Jiyu Fei's sword light actually contained some kind of grand Tao. It was a power that could make one's soul tremble. This is a sword light that specifically targets the origin soul. the Fire Emperor said solemnly in the Heavenly Emperor Palace. What? Everyone couldn't help but be alarmed when they heard that. There were many great arts that specifically targeted the soul, but there were very few sword Tao that targeted the soul. Could this be the legendary primordial sword of the Tao? A white-haired old man spoke with a trembling voice. He was incomparably excited. It had to be known that this secret art had been lost for countless years. The legendary 9 secrets of the immortal Tao. An expert of the older generation exclaimed. Ascending sword. The ancient celestial emperor roared. He had finally used his ascending sword of the Tao. This sword Tao was also a Tao sword. Buzz. A sword cry shook the heavens as a violet swordlight rushed out of the primordial celestial theater's body and clashed with Jiyu Fei's primordial spirit Tao sword. The resplendent sword light bloomed, illuminating the entire world in an instant. Jiyu Fei, today is the day you die. The ancient Yuan Heavenly Emperor said coldly. His eyes were cold and murderous. This guy was really reckless. He actually came here to undergo his tribulation. However, the heavenly tribulation was still wreaking havoc. One after another, tribulation lightning fell from the sky and directly ignored the defensive immortal light of the celestial city and the celestial palace. Wherever the tribulation lightning passed, cultivators were directly blasted into ashes, their bodies and souls annihilated. Hee, it's hard to say who will die today. Jiyu Fei laughed. He was very relaxed because he still hadn't used any of his trump cards. However, the ancient Yuan Heavenly Emperor was really powerful. He actually couldn't tell if this was Yuan Gu's real body or a clone. The two figures moved rapidly in the void. Bolts of the 9th heaven lightning fell from the sky and directly struck Jiyu Fei's body. He was bathed in tribulation lightning, but he didn't notice it at all. This was the 9th heaven lightning, which was even more powerful than the chaotic tribulation lightning. Even a great sage would be blasted to smithereens by it. This Jiyu Fei is quite a character. He has actually cultivated his physical body to such a powerful level. The Fire Emperor couldn't help but be shocked when he saw Jiyu Fei bathed in lightning. Fire Emperor, you don't know that this Jiyu Fei is a martial arts successor. A white-haired old man said. What? The Fire Emperor couldn't help but be startled when he heard this. He turned to look at the white-haired old man. This Jiyu Fei once caused havoc in the Eastern Earth. Even the Violet Emperor died at his hands. The ancient Yuan Heavenly Emperor and Jiyu Fei have a huge grudge. The old man sighed. He hadn't expected that Jiyu Fei would return. Perhaps only he would dare to trick the ancient Yuan Heavenly Emperor. To put it more accurately, Jiyu Fei had tricked everyone, as the tribulation guiding force wasn't just targeting the primordial celestial the Arch, but everyone. Many people who didn't want to undergo the tribulation had no choice but to do so. The tribulation fire had been ignited, so these people had to undergo the tribulation regardless of whether they wanted to or not. He's actually a martial ancestor's successor. No wonder. The Fire Emperor suddenly understood. The martial ancestor was a supreme existence who had created the path of martial arts. The martial path was a cultivation method that fused one's physique and technique. The physique was the martial body, while the technique was the martial path's battle technique. The fusion of a physique and battle technique could greatly increase the power of a cultivator on the path of martial arts. It could be said that a cultivator was born to be a warrior. At this time, Jiyu Fei and the ancient Yuan Heavenly Emperor were engaged in an intense battle. Sword aura swept across the sky. Even the mountains thousands of miles away were swept by the swordlight and collapsed. This was a power that could destroy heaven and earth. Both the cultivators in Celestial City and the Celestial Palace in the sky were shocked to the extreme. At this time, 9 divine suns appeared in the sky. They were all purple, and each of them emitted a dazzling divine light. These were huge lightning balls condensed from the power of the 9 heavens. They looked like 9 purple suns that had appeared in the sky, illuminating the entire world in purple. Everyone raised their heads and looked up. The destructive power emitted by the 9 divine suns in the sky almost collapsed the sky. Dark and terrifying spatial cracks cracked in the void. They looked like huge black lightning bolts that extended from the sky to the ground. This scene was really terrifying. Everyone was dumbfounded. No one had thought that the heavenly tribulation that Jiu Fei had triggered would be so powerful. On a mountain thousands of miles away from the celestial palace, a black-clothed masked woman looked at the sky in shock. The 9 suns were very conspicuous in the dusky sky. Even thousands of miles away, one could still sense the terrifying destructive aura emitted by the 9 suns. This was a power that could make even great sages despair. I didn't expect that Jiu Fei would really dare to go to Celestial City to undergo the heavenly tribulation. 2 old men stood behind the mysterious underworld saintess. They were the Black Tiger Man and Elder Yang Kuan. Good, very good. I didn't expect that the ancient Yuan Heavenly Emperor would have such a day. Elder Yang Kuan was extremely excited when he saw this scene. The Black Tiger Man's expression was grave. His eyes flickered, but no one knew what he was thinking. The ancient Yuan Heavenly Emperor was extremely shocked. Jiu Fei had actually triggered the heavenly tribulation that had only appeared in legends. This was the true might of the 9 heavens' thunder. Chapter 2675. You want to escape? It won't be that easy, Jiu Fei shouted and immediately used the primordial Soul Dao sword. Rays of sword light rushed out of his body. There were 108 of them, and they intertwined to form a sword net, trapping the primordial celestial the arch within. Buzz. The sword light hummed and the sword chi shot into the sky. A powerful force of the sword way sealed off this part of the void. Rumble. At that moment, 9 purple suns descended from the sky and descended towards Jiu Fei. Wherever the 9 suns passed, the void was annihilated and everything was destroyed. Roar. The ancient celestial emperor felt threatened. He roared and used the flying celestial sword way with all his might. Dazzling sword light tore through the void. The void that had been sealed by Jiu Fei's Yuan Soul Sword technique shook violently. The 108 rays of sword light gradually dimmed. The ancient celestial emperor was attacking with all his might. The 108 rays of sword light had to bear the double pressure before collapsing. The ancient celestial emperor rushed out impatiently. Preposterous. That guy got lucky. At that moment, Jiu Fei was resisting the heavenly tribulation with all his might. He couldn't divert his attention to stop the ancient celestial emperor. However, the 9 purple suns descended from the sky and a terrifying power enveloped the surroundings. Although the ancient celestial emperor tried his best to escape the heavenly tribulation, it was too late. Boom. 9 purple suns descended from the sky, and endless lightning radiance bloomed. Dao patterns in the shape of lightning filled every inch of the void. The lightning engulfed Jiu Fei in an instant. Even the ancient celestial emperor was swept into the sea of lightning. That wasn't all. The purple sea of lightning spread out, connecting the sky and the earth. It enveloped Celestial City on the ground and Celestial Palace high up in the sky. What's going on? It's not time for me to undergo the heavenly tribulation yet. Why am I glowing? Someone cried out in fear. At that moment, the purple tribulation lightning covered the sky and the earth, enveloping an area of 1,000 miles. Inside the Celestial City, people were emitting light from all over their bodies one after another. This was the tribulation fire, the omen that the heavenly tribulation was about to arrive. There's no justice in this world. I don't want to go through the tribulation. In the Celestial City and the Celestial Palace, screams of despair were transmitted unceasingly. Endless purple lightning wreaked havoc outside the Celestial City. The Celestial City's protective formation was operating frantically, blocking the purple lightning outside the city. However, when the cultivators inside the Celestial City attracted a heavenly tribulation, even the great formation protecting the city couldn't block it. The heavenly tribulation attracted by the cultivators inside the city would ignore the obstruction of the void and directly descend on the cultivators who attracted the heavenly tribulation. At this moment, the tribulation attracting force was unprecedentedly strong. Even some cultivators who hadn't reached the stage of tribulation yet had their tribulation fire ignited. This was definitely a disaster. Everyone was terrified to the extreme, fearing that the tribulation guiding force would ignite the tribulation flames. Roar. The furious roar of the ancient Yuan celestial the Arch could be heard from the endless tribulation lightning. He had encountered a great crisis, as the power of the 9 balls of lightning fire had far exceeded his imagination. A bolt of purple lightning struck his shoulder and scorched it black. Even his heavenly venerate immortal physique was affected by it. Fortunately, the ancient Yuan celestial the Arch didn't need to worry about the tribulation guiding force affecting him. Open. The ancient Yuan celestial Theacher's body was shrouded in immortal light, and his immortal aura was vast and mighty. An incomparably resplendent swordlight rushed out of his hand and broke through the tribulation lightning. He didn't dare hesitate and wanted to leave the sea of lightning immediately. However, at this moment, a figure that radiated with the light of tribulation of metal suddenly appeared in front of him and blocked his way. That person grinned and pounced directly at the ancient Yuan celestial the Arch. Rumble, endless destructive thunder rushed out of his body, making him look like an invincible god of thunder. Every bolt of lightning that rushed out of his body directly tore the void between heaven and earth. Phut! A bolt of lightning directly penetrated the ancient Yuan celestial Theacher's shoulder. The ancient Yuan celestial the Arch was extremely shocked. He didn't even think about it before retreating. A destructive force spread out from his shoulder and extinguished his vitality. This was the power of the Tao of destruction. Tribulation lightning was originally a kind of destructive force. Moreover, the ancient Yuan celestial the Arch was shocked to discover that the bolt of lightning that had penetrated his shoulder was actually a lightning-shaped Tao pattern. This was a heavenly pattern. At this moment, Jiyu Fei wasn't having a good time either. He had lost count of how many times his body had been penetrated by the purple lightning. This kind of lightning formed from a heavenly pattern was invincible. Even someone as powerful as Jiyu Fei couldn't bear it. His martial body was showing signs of collapsing. Roar! Jiyu Fei roared as he continued to chase after the ancient Yuan celestial the Arch. He wanted to borrow the power of the tribulation lightning to contend against the ancient Yuan celestial the Arch. This kind of power could definitely injure Yuan Jiyu. Even if he couldn't kill Yuan Jiyu, he could at least beat him half to death. You're crazy. The ancient Yuan celestial the Arch kept dodging. He was extremely shocked. He had never seen anyone directly attract the power of tribulation. This guy was too crazy. Haha, ancient Yuan, come on, fight me fair and square if you have the gut. Jiyu Fei laughed as he used the 8 desolate steps to display the world's fastest speed. This made the ancient Yuan celestial the Arch furious. His heavenly sovereign immortal body had already been penetrated by the lightning that had rushed out from Jiyu Fei's body in more than a dozen places. Moreover, the wounds on his body were difficult to heal. This was a great Tao injury. Jiyu Fei's body was surrounded by lightning. In the end, even his 7 orifices were emitting lightning. He had no choice but to stop and use all his strength to resist the increasingly powerful tribulation lightning. The 9 purple suns had already penetrated his body. It was as if there were 9 divine suns blooming with endless electric light in his body. If it were any other peak great sage, his physical body would have been blown up by the 9 balls of tribulation thunder, and his body and soul would have been destroyed. However, Jiyu Fei wasn't an ordinary peak great sage. He was a great sage of the martial path. His martial body was extremely powerful and was known as the indestructible martial body. Even the ancient Yuan celestial Theacher's heavenly sovereign immortal body couldn't compare to his great sage martial body. The ancient Yuan celestial the Arch took the opportunity to hide far away. Right now, Jiyu Fei was a tribulation lightning that could explode at any time. He didn't want to take the risk. Rumble, thunderous sounds came from Jiyu Fei's body. His entire body was blooming with endless lightning. In the end, the purple lightning intertwined outside his body and formed a light cocoon. This was an extreme transformation. The moment Jiyu Fei broke out of the cocoon and was reborn, it was as if he had experienced a rebirth. Chapter 2676. The Yuan ancient celestial the Arch rushed out of the sea of lightning in a sorry state. His entire body was scorched black, and his heavenly venerate body had suffered a great impact. Tiny purple lightning bolts were still circulating around his body, emitting crackling sounds. This bastard, Yuan Jiyu spat out a mouthful of blood. He wanted nothing more than to tear Jiyu Fei apart. He had never been tricked like this before, so he was shocked, angry, and anxious. Come in and fight if you have the guts. Jiyu Fei's voice came from the Sea of Lightning. He was challenging the Yuan Ancient Celestial the Arch. I'm going to die from anger. The Yuan Ancient Celestial the Arch had an urge to eat someone, but he wasn't overwhelmed by anger. It had to be said that the power of the Ninth Heaven Lightning was enough to threaten him. Furthermore, the Ninth Heaven Lightning tribulation wasn't directed at him, but at Jiyu Fei. He wouldn't help Jiyu Fei resist the tribulation. Rumble, a figure sat cross-legged in the light cocoon that was formed by interweaving purple lightning. Endless lightning interweaved outside the cocoon and turned into purple Dao patterns. A terrifying tribulation lightning domain was formed around the cocoon of light. Any living being that entered this domain would be mercilessly blasted to smithereens. Perhaps not even a scrap would be left behind. However, the tribulation lightning domain was constantly devouring the power of the tribulation lightning in the surroundings. Dao patterns were faintly discernible within the tribulation lightning domain. This was the manifestation of the great Dao. The Dao patterns were imprinted into the cocoon of light and hidden within. Jiyu Fei was just bluffing. He was trying to comprehend the heavenly Dao brought about by the heavenly tribulation, so he couldn't deal with the Yuan Ancient Celestial the Arch. However, even the Yuan Ancient Celestial the Arch didn't dare to recklessly enter the Sea of Lightning. The tribulation lightning domain was so terrifying that even a heavenly venerate would be in danger of dying inside. It seems like I can't stop him. Interesting. The Flame Emperor, who was in the Heavenly Emperor Palace, smirked when he sensed the changes in the Sea of Lightning. The Yuan Ancient Celestial the Arch was in big trouble. Once Jiyu Fei successfully transcended the tribulation, the Yuan Ancient Celestial the Arch would be in deep trouble. Although the Flame Emperor and the ancient Yuan Celestial ruler were allies, this alliance was built on the common interests of both parties. The two emperors had a common enemy, the Southern Mountains God Emperor. If not for this reason, the Fire Emperor would not have needed the ancient bird Heavenly Emperor. However, the ancient Yuan Celestial the Arch now had a powerful enemy, so the Flame Emperor had to reconsider whether or not he should continue maintaining his alliance with the ancient Yuan Celestial the Arch. The ancient Yuan Celestial the Arch also sensed the changes in the Sea of Lightning. Preposterous. The primordial Heavenly the Arch knew what would happen if Jiyu Fei succeeded his tribulation. Buzz. With a thought, a bronze battle spear rushed out from his body, emitting a terrifying aura. This was an ancient battle spear. The blood on the spearhead had yet to dry. Sparkling and translucent blood beads flowed on the spearhead, but they did not drip down. Each drop of blood beads emitted a demonic blood-red light. One look and anyone could tell that these blood beads were not ordinary. A battle spear that has killed demons before? The Flame Emperor's heart trembled when he saw this scene. It should be known that this was an ancient battle spear that was stained with the blood of an ancient demon. Demons in ancient times were definitely synonymous with power. Die. The ancient Yuan Celestial the Arch did not hesitate as he took out the ancient battle spear. The ancient battle spear immediately turned into a blood-red light that pierced through the Sea of Lightning and pierced through the light cocoon in the tribulation lightning territory. The ancient battle spear emitted a terrifying aura that would make even a sacred venerate shudder. This ancient battle spear could definitely kill a sacred venerate. However, the speed of the ancient battle spear immediately slowed down when it pierced through the tribulation lightning territory. The blood-red light vibrated violently and turned back into an ancient battle spear. The ancient battle spear emitted a supreme killing intent as if it contained a god's will. Ancient runes appeared on the ancient battle spear. Buzz. The ancient battle spear vibrated. Even the tribulation lightning territory could not destroy it, so it continued to pierce through the light cocoon. Rumble. Streaks of tribulation lightning bombarded the ancient battle spear. Although the spear shook violently, it could not be destroyed. Just as the ancient battle spear was about to pierce through the light cocoon, a huge hand suddenly reached out from the light cocoon and grabbed the battle spear. Crack. The moment the huge hand grabbed the ancient battle spear, cracks appeared on it. Then, The ancient battle spear that even the tribulation lightning territory could not destroy actually shattered in the grip of the huge hand. This, the ancient Yuan Celestial the Arch could not help but be shocked when he sensed this scene. No one knew better than him how terrifying this ancient battle spear was. It was a weapon that could kill a sacred venerate. However, this weapon had been shattered by Ji Yufei. The ancient Yuan Celestial the Arch could not believe that Ji Yufei's physical strength had reached such a heaven-defying level. After crushing the ancient battle spear, Ji Yufei's huge hand retracted back into the light cocoon. Inside the light cocoon, the aura of the Great Path was vast and mighty. The Great Path brought about by the heavenly tribulation was constantly evolving. Ji Yufei was comprehending the Great Path of the world between life and death. At this moment, the ancient Yuan Celestial the Arch was extremely depressed. He could not do anything to Ji Yufei. Do I have to use my trump card? The ancient Yuan Celestial the Arch struggled internally. If he revealed his trump card now, it would definitely not be a good thing for him. He did not want others to know his actual strength. This Ji Yufei, thousands of miles away, the mysterious underworld saintess, who was standing on a mountain ridge, couldn't help but be shocked when she saw this scene. Ji Yufei was actually able to contend against the ancient Yuan Celestial the Arch. This was beyond her expectations. A terrifying aura surged forth. Even a saint would feel insignificant in the face of this might. This fellow is going to defy the heavens. The Black Tiger Daoist and Elder Yang Kuan, who were standing behind the mysterious underworld saintess, were in disbelief. This is outrageous. We can't let him truly mature. The ancient Yuan Celestial the Arch had made up his mind. He was going to use his trump card to kill Ji Yufei. However, the heavenly tribulation changed again. The tribulation thunder domain around Ji Yufei suddenly disappeared. 9 lightning-shaped runes appeared in the void and directly imprinted themselves on the light cocoon. Roar! A long howl resounded from within the cocoon of light. A supreme aura of the Saint Tao erupted, causing the heavens and the earth to tremble. After that, the lightning markings that had formed the cocoon vanished into Ji Yufei's body. An unimaginably powerful figure stood up from the void. At this moment, a figure appeared in the depths of the sky. This was a figure so powerful that even the ancient Yuan Celestial Theater's heart palpitated. The void around this figure was collapsing, and even the primal chaos chi appeared. The reason for all of this was that this figure was too powerful. He was so powerful that even the void of the heaven realm could not contain his existence. Is this the final test? Ji Yufei raised his head and looked at the sky with a smile on his face. Swoosh! In the next moment, he soared into the sky and charged into the depths of the sky. After that, he directly attacked the unimaginably powerful existence. This, even the ancient Yuan Celestial the Arch was moved. This was the heavenly Tao's imprint being activated. This Ji Yufei could actually trigger a heavenly tribulation of this level. The ancient Yuan Celestial the Arch originally wanted to use his trump card, but he gave up on this idea. Die! Ji Yufei's battle intent surged as he fought against the blurry figure in the depths of the sky. He even broke through the void and charged into the primal chaos void. A terrifying pressure surged out from the primal chaos, shocking everyone to the extreme. At this moment, the 9 heavens lightning had already dissipated. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. However, more than half of the cultivators in Celestial City and Celestial Palace had died. These cultivators had all been killed by the heavenly tribulation. Their bodies and souls had been destroyed. Ji Yufei, the ancient Yuan Celestial Theater's eyes were bloodshot because the majority of the cultivators that had died were his people. More than half of the 100,000 Celestial Emperor soldiers had died, and their vitality had been greatly damaged. There were countless other cultivators who had been ignited by the tribulation attracting force. This time, Ji Yufei had really made the ancient Yuan Celestial the Arch miserable. At this moment, Ji Yufei was fighting against the heavenly Tao imprint. That figure was so powerful that Ji Yufei couldn't gain any advantage even if they were at the same level. Boom! With a loud noise, chaotic blood splattered everywhere. Ji Yufei's figure was sent flying thousands of meters away. Chaotic blood spurted out of his mouth, and a large part of his chest had caved in. Roar! Jiu Fei let out a long roar as his body emitted chaotic light. It was as if chaotic lightning was circling around him as a heavenly venerate's might erupted from his body. His chest, which had caved in from the figure's attack, instantly recovered. The chaotic blood that he had spat out flowed back into his body. Again, Jiu Fei didn't hesitate. Even in the face of such a powerful existence, he didn't show any fear as he attacked the figure once again. Rumble! Jiu Fei stretched out his hand and unleashed a sky-covering palm. The entire chaotic void trembled as a huge chaotic palm appeared and slapped towards the figure. Roar! The blurry figure roared at the sky. Then, he stretched out his hand to meet Jiu Fei's primal chaos palm. A dazzling golden beast claw appeared in the void. Boom! With a loud bang, Jiu Fei's chaotic hand collided with the figure's golden light beast hand, causing an earth-shattering sound to erupt. The collision of the two forces produced a destructive storm that swept in all directions. It was as if the sky and earth were being split apart, and the chaotic aura in the surroundings was dispersed. Die! Jiu Fei's battle intent was like a rainbow, and his killing intent was endless. He instantly rushed forward and clashed with the figure. Boom! Bam! Dull sounds of collision rang out continuously as the chaotic void boiled. Chapter 2677. Amidst the chaos, Jiu Fei and the figure that was powerful enough to make peak great sages despair and heavenly venerates tremble were locked in battle. Boom! The sky-covering primal chaos palm and the golden beast clashed repeatedly, causing a deafening explosion. The void shook violently as chaotic energy surged. Terrifying fluctuations spread from the chaos to the outside world, shocking all the cultivators in Celestial City and the Celestial Palace. In the sky above Celestial City, terrifying spatial cracks were constantly appearing. The aura of destruction seeped out from those spatial cracks, causing people's hearts to palpitate. He's actually able to fight that existence for so long without dying? The ancient Yuan Celestial the Arch stood high in the sky with a gloomy expression. He had already figured out what the final opponent of Jiu Fei's heavenly venerate tribulation was. It was the most stunning and powerful existence in the eastern earth of the heavenly world. Its bloodline had continued to this era, and its bloodline was so powerful that even the sky and earth paled in comparison. It seems like the ancient Yuan Celestial the Arch is really out of luck. Above the Heavenly Emperor Palace, the Fire Emperor looked at the cracks in the void that were constantly appearing. The corners of his lips curled up into an intriguing smile. Boom! The void collapsed with a loud sound as a golden beast claw the size of a mountain tore through the void and grabbed at the ancient Yuan Celestial the Arch. The aura of destruction emitted by the golden beast claw shocked the ancient Yuan Celestial the Arch. What's going on? The primordial heavenly the Arch was shocked. He immediately turned into a streak of swordlight and retreated. He wanted to dodge, but the golden beast's claw covered the sky and enveloped the entire world. Bang! The ancient Yuan Celestial the Arch was sent flying by the golden claw as blood dripped down from the sky. Roar! The ancient Yuan Celestial the Arch roared furiously as blood seeped from the corner of his mouth. He was about to counterattack, but the golden beast claw suddenly disappeared into the void. The chaotic secret technique? The ancient Yuan Celestial the Arch was shocked. He had never imagined that Jiu Fei's spirit would be so powerful that he could still sense his position while fighting against that existence. Jiu Fei was using the chaotic secret technique to direct the attack of that existence towards the ancient Yuan Celestial the Arch. Rumble! A powerful force tore through the void and rushed out of the primal chaos. A golden fist smashed directly at the ancient Yuan heavenly ruler. Golden Dao patterns circled the golden fist, releasing an invincible Dao power. It was as if a heavenly beast was attacking the primordial Celestial the Arch. Preposterous! The ancient Yuan Celestial the Arch was both shocked and furious. He waved his right hand and a dazzling swordlight rushed out of his hand. It soared for thousands of meters and slashed at the golden fist. However, the sharp swordlight shattered the moment it came into contact with the golden fist. The invincible golden fist blasted the primordial Celestial the Arch away once again. Is it really that old ape? On top of the Heavenly Emperor Palace, When the Fire Emperor saw this scene, his mind couldn't help but tremble. That old ape was once invincible in the heaven realm, and was the invincible expert that walked out of the eastern earth of the heaven realm. Back then, the Fire Emperor also had the qualifications to compete for the position of supremacy. However, the one that walked out of the eastern earth was simply too dazzling. Even the Fire Emperor had been defeated by him. This was a shadow in the Fire Emperor's heart that was difficult to remove even after countless years. How could a Celestial the Arch be defeated? At this moment, all the powerhouses under the ancient Yuan Celestial the Arch in the Heavenly Emperor Palace and Celestial City were stunned by the scene before them. In their minds, a Celestial the Arch was invincible and undefeatable. However, their Celestial the Arch had been blasted away one after another. This result was difficult for them to accept. The ancient Yuan Celestial the Arch was also extremely depressed. That existence was even more powerful and terrifying than he had imagined. However, Jiu Fei had managed to withstand it and continue to fight it. Could it be that Jiu Fei's cultivation and combat power were already higher than his own? The ancient Yuan Celestial the Arch couldn't help but feel uneasy. If Jiu Fei became a heavenly venerate, then he would be in big trouble. Ha ha, ancient Yuan, isn't this good? Jiu Fei's laughter echoed from the primal chaos. Again, as Jiu Fei spoke, rays of golden light pierced through the void and turned into rays of golden swordlight that pierced towards the ancient Yuan Celestial the Arch. Each golden swordlight had golden Tao runes faintly visible within it. They were releasing the aura of the great Tao. These swordlights were condensed from the power of the great Tao and could slay saints. In fact, given the combat power of that existence, saints wouldn't even be able to block a single swordlight. They would be directly killed, their bodies and souls destroyed. You dare to play with swords in front of me? The ancient Yuan Celestial the Arch was truly enraged. His body trembled as the pressure of a heavenly venerate immediately erupted from his body. Countless purple swordlights shot up from the sky and met the golden swordlight that pierced through the void. Each swordlight was like a divine rainbow that streaked through the void, leaving behind pitch-black spatial cracks wherever it passed. It displayed a power that could make even great saints' hearts palpitate. Buzz! The void shook as the two supreme sword energies collided. The void let out a deafening sound before it was silently annihilated. The sword chi spread in all directions, destroying everything tangible and intangible. Fut! The ancient Yuan Celestial the Arch wasn't able to block all the swordlights in the end. One of the golden swordlights directly pierced through his left shoulder, causing his heavenly venerate blood to splatter everywhere. The ancient Yuan Celestial the Arch quickly retreated. He was extremely shocked. That existence was truly heaven-defying. This kind of power was too great to even be able to suppress him. At that moment, the ancient Yuan Celestial the Arch felt a powerful wave of sword chi spreading from the wound on his left shoulder. It was rapidly destroying his vitality. Roar! The ancient Yuan Celestial the Arch roared as his origin source sword chi suddenly erupted. Bam! With a muffled sound, the ancient Yuan Celestial Theater's entire shoulder exploded. A golden light rushed out of the bloody mist before dissipating into the void. The sword chi that had entered the ancient Yuan Celestial Theater's body was forced out. Jiu Fei, come out and fight if you have the guts. Borrowing the power of others is nothing, the ancient Yuan Celestial the Arch roared. The primordial celestial ruler roared. His shoulder was badly mangled, but his muscles, bones, and flesh were regenerating. Very quickly, his immortal body was completely restored as if he had never been injured. At his level of cultivation, regenerating flesh was just a minor path. The ancient Yuan Celestial the Arch had also mastered one of the 9 secrets of the immortal Tao, the Heaven Ascension secret art. It would be very difficult to kill him. This was the source of the ancient Yuan Celestial Theater's confidence. He had tens of thousands of clones. Even the current ancient Yuan Celestial the Arch didn't know if he was one of them. It was the same for the Flame Emperor. Even the Flame Emperor couldn't see through the ancient Yuan Celestial the Arch, let alone others. Jiu Fei had cultivated the martial path Heavenly Eye, but he still couldn't see through the ancient Yuan Celestial the Arch. TCH, Come in and fight if you have the guts. Ji Fei said disdainfully. Damn it. Although the ancient Yuan Celestial the Arch was furious, he wouldn't fall for Ji Fei's trick. Provoking the ancient Yuan Celestial the Arch into attacking and then diverting the pressure of the heavenly tribulation onto himself. At this time, on a mountain peak several thousand miles away from Celestial City, a golden light descended from the sky and landed on a large rock. It was a tall and sturdy golden-haired youth. His entire body was shrouded in golden light, as if he was enveloped by a layer of golden lightning. An incomparably powerful aura spread from the golden-haired youth's body. Why is he here? In the distance, the Xianming Saintess noticed the golden-haired youth. This person had a great background and had only recently come out of seclusion. As soon as he came out, he started a war that shook the Eastern Earth. Father, the golden-haired youth couldn't help but become excited when he sensed the familiar energy fluctuations coming from the primal chaos rift. His eyes flickered with golden light. Swish. The Xianming Saintess pondered for a moment before she soared into the sky and flew towards the mountain peak where the golden-haired youth was. She landed beside him. Greetings, sacred prince. The Xianming Saintess didn't dare slight the golden-haired youth. You still dare to appear here? Aren't you afraid that old Yuan Jiyu will attack you? The golden-haired youth said indifferently without even looking at the Xianming Saintess. Sacred prince, you must be joking. Do you think that old Yuan Jiyu still has the time to attack me? The Xianming Saintess said as she glanced at the golden-haired youth. Who is that person in the primal chaos? He actually managed to trigger the mark left behind by my father during his tribulation back then. The golden-haired youth asked. He felt that the aura in the primal chaos seemed familiar, but he couldn't determine who it was. Oh, sacred prince, you don't know who that person is? You must be joking. That person is an old acquaintance of yours, the Xianming Saintess said in surprise. She knew about the friendship between Ji Fei and the sacred emperor. The two of them could be considered life and death brothers. They weren't simply old acquaintances. Could it really be him? Yuan Hong's eyes immediately lit up. Just as Yuan Hong was feeling bewildered, the great battle in the primal chaos was about to end. Ji Fei was getting stronger as he fought, and his great sage Dao patterns had transformed into sacred venerate Dao patterns. The 9 primal chaos Dao patterns released powerful sacred venerate energy fluctuations. Boom! A golden fist smashed directly onto Ji Fei's body, sending Ji Fei flying for tens of thousands of feet. Blood seeped out from the corner of his mouth. All right. Ji Fei's eyes shot out an extremely sharp divine light. His entire body emitted a sonic boom as his physical strength was released. The violent power was vast and mighty. Again, Ji Fei's long hair fluttered as he charged forward with an indomitable will. His pair of primal chaos fists smashed the primal chaos void as though they were splitting the sky and earth. He was once again sent flying by that figure that emitted endless golden light. Chapter 2678. He had been sent flying again and again, but he had rushed forward again and again. If he bled, he would just wipe it away. Ji Fei's gaze was firm. As a martialist, he was a natural warrior. His Dao heart had never wavered. An unyielding fighting spirit ignited in his chest. Ji Fei's aura had never disappeared amidst the primal chaos. Even if he was extremely weak, he would still grow stronger. Many people wanted Ji Fei to die under the heavenly tribulation. However, he just couldn't die. He was like a centipede. Just when everyone thought that he would die, he stood up again and continued to fight against that existence. An ordinary peak great sage would have lost all hope if they had encountered that existence. It should be known that this existence was the strongest existence that had ever emerged from the eastern earth of the heaven realm. It could stand shoulder to shoulder with a supremacy. This existence was formed by the great path imprint that Yuan Hong's father, the golden-eyed divine ape, had left on the heavenly path. The golden-eyed divine ape had once been invincible in the heaven realm. He had suppressed countless powerhouses in the heaven realm to the point where they couldn't even lift their heads. Even the forbidden areas of the heaven realm had quietened down and didn't dare make any moves. Father must still be alive. Sacred Prince Yuan Hong said from a mountain peak thousands of miles away. He stared resolutely at the spatial cracks that were constantly appearing in the sky. The familiar aura coming from the primal chaos reminded him of his father. His old father had sealed him into the present world, and then disappeared. No one knew where the golden-eyed divine ape, who had once been invincible in the heaven realm, had gone. Perhaps only the supremacy-level existences knew what had happened. However, Yuan Hong knew that his father wouldn't die so easily. The eyes of the mysterious underworld saintess, who was standing beside Yuan Hong, lit up when she heard his words. She looked at Yuan Hong, but no one knew what she was thinking. The most depressed person right now was the Yuan ancient heavenly emperor. He was so angry that he almost vomited blood when he thought about his subordinates, who had been ignited by the heavenly tribulation. Ji Fei had dug a hole for himself this time. The Yuan ancient heavenly emperor's strength had been greatly damaged, and he wouldn't be able to recover for a long time. Furthermore, it had to happen at this time. The winds and clouds of the heaven realm were changing. The older generation powerhouses had returned, and the situation of many heroes fighting for supremacy had already formed. At this time, the primordial heavenly theater's strength had been damaged, which was very bad for him. The duration of the heavenly tribulation was not short. Every major power had planted spies in the eastern earth. The news of someone going to Celestial City to undergo the tribulation on the birthday of the primordial heavenly emperor spread like wildfire. Haha, very good. Who has such guts? In the Nanling Mountains, a loud laugh came from a place of immortal spirit. A sacred venerate-level aura of the divine way spread out from the depths of the place. That ruthless person is so abnormal, he's even more awesome than me. Old Yuan is about to vomit blood, haha. The voice of the old tortoise came from the ancestral court of the demons in the heaven realm. At this time, even the superpowers of the Middle Earth were shocked. There was actually someone who dared to go to the Eastern Land's celestial emperor Yuan Gu's lair to undergo tribulation. Was that person crazy? Who was the primordial heavenly emperor? No matter how mysterious he was, the old antiques of the ancient powers of the heaven realm could still somewhat guess who he was. Someone dared to cause trouble on the birthday of the primordial heavenly emperor. This was beyond everyone's expectations. This was definitely a big matter that would shake the entire heaven realm. Regardless of whether it was the Nanling Mountains, the Middle Earth, the Snowfield, or even the Western Li, all powerhouses were alarmed. In a short period of time, countless cultivators in the heaven realm were discussing this matter. Some of the superpowerhouses even directly crossed the void and rushed to the Eastern Earth. Just as everyone was curious about who dared to go to the lair of the primordial heavenly emperor to undergo tribulation, Ji Fei's heavenly tribulation was already coming to an end. Rumble, in the primal chaos, the primal energy was vast and mighty. Ji Fei's battle intent was unextinguished as he clashed with that figure. From being in a disadvantageous position to being able to attack and defend, he was now able to contend with it. During this process, Ji Fei didn't know how many times his martial body had been blasted apart by this powerful opponent. However, the indestructible martial body wasn't just for show. Even if he was blasted to pieces by that existence, Ji Fei could still reform his muscles, bones, blood, and flesh and reconstruct his martial body. He didn't use the 9 secrets of the immortal path. He only used his own martial power to fight against the figure formed by the old ape's heavenly Tao imprint. At this moment, the primal energy around Ji Fei's body was vast and mighty. Primal chaos Tao patterns faintly appeared on his body. The aura of the great Tao permeated the air, making him look like a peerless martial god that had been born from the primal chaos. A saint venerate pressure that could crush the heavens spread from his body. It was extremely terrifying, and even the space in the outside world shook violently. The great Tao mysteries of the holy venerate level from the heavenly tribulation had been successfully integrated into Ji Fei's own great Tao. His great Tao had been further perfected. It's my turn to show my might. At this moment, Ji Fei's battle intent was unprecedentedly strong. The 9 primal chaos Tao patterns turned into 9 beams of primal chaos divine light that circled around him. He extended his hand and guided a beam of primal chaos divine light to his hand before striking it at the old ape. At this moment, the old ape's fighting strength was also at the level of a holy venerate, but it was on par with Gu Fei's. However, the old ape's fighting strength was already the most powerful one he could muster. Although the world was heartless, it still left a chance for those undergoing the tribulation. The great Tao imprint that the old ape had left on the heavenly Tao could only display the battle prowess of a holy venerate. Roar! The old ape roared and punched out. His fist collided with the incoming beam of primal chaos divine light. The power of a holy venerate erupted, and the golden fist dispersed the beam of primal chaos divine light. The old ape was also pushed back by the power that erupted from the primal chaos divine light. At this moment, the old ape could no longer gain any advantage. This was a battle between people of the same level, and Gu Fei was a martial artist. It was no exaggeration to say that he was invincible among those of the same level. However, the old ape was no ordinary holy venerate. He was a supreme expert that had appeared in the Eastern Land before. He had dominated an era, and even the Forbidden Zones did not dare to act recklessly. Gu Fei used the 8 desolation steps and chased after the old ape. He extended his hand, and a huge hand that blotted out the sky immediately appeared in the void and slapped at the old ape. The old ape was extremely powerful. He still punched out, and a supreme fist force erupted from his fist. It was as if a golden divine sun had appeared in the primal chaos. The golden light dispersed the primal chaos aura within a radius of 10,000 miles. This was the battle technique of the golden-eyed divine ape clan. Back then, the old ape had beaten up all the experts in the heaven realm with his fists. Boom. Chapter 2679. A large area of the void suddenly collapsed as 2 figures broke through the void and rushed out of the chaos. The pressure of a saint venerate filled the area. Everyone was shocked when they saw this scene. The divine pressure of a saint venerate made everyone's hearts palpitate. Even the ancient celestial emperor and the fire emperor could not help but be moved. Yuan Jiyu, come and fight me. As soon as Gu Fei rushed out of the primal chaos, he charged towards the primordial celestial emperor. With a wave of his hands, the 9 rays of primal chaos divine light around him immediately turned into 9 rays of primal chaos rainbow that pierced towards the primordial celestial emperor. Gu Fei, you little brat. The ancient celestial emperor was both shocked and angry. Gu Fei had already grown up. Buzz. 9 immortal marks also rushed out of the ancient celestial emperor's body. The 9 purple immortal marks turned into a shocking sword light that met the 9 beams of chaotic divine light. 2 extremely strong sword chi clashed together in an instant, and a devastating sword chi wave burst out. The void was directly torn apart, and it was annihilated silently. The ancient celestial emperor quickly retreated. At this time, the elder ape had already started fighting with Gu Fei. Every punch they threw caused the entire area to tremble, displaying their terrifying combat power. Gu Fei naturally did not show any weakness and also waved his fist. Boom! Gu Fei's chaotic fist collided with the old ape's golden fist, resulting in a deafening explosion. The 2 figures quickly separated, and the void between them collapsed. Pitch-black spatial cracks extended into the distance. The elder ape did not have much time left. Soon, he would turn into a great pathmark and return to the heavenly path. Swoosh! Golden light filled the sky as the elder ape directly pounced towards Gu Fei. As he waved his golden fist, it shattered the void. The terrifying pressure caused the sky to tremble. Instead of retreating, Gu Fei charged at the old macaque. Boom! Bang! Gu Fei and the old ape were like 2 supreme gods fighting each other. Their powerful saint venerable auras filled the surroundings, shocking everyone. I didn't expect this Gu Fei to be able to contend against the great Tao brand of the elder ape. When the fire emperor saw this scene in the heavenly emperor palace, he could not help but be moved. It should be known that the old ape was the most outstanding existence in the past. Even in the holy venerable realm, he was an unrivaled holy venerable. Martial artists can really be invincible among their peers. The power that Gu Fei had displayed had already exceeded his expectations, causing him to look at Ji Yufei in a different light. He did not want to become enemies with Ji Yufei. Kill. The primordial celestial the arch rushed over. Clanging sounds rang out from his body as thousands of swordlights rushed out from his body and pierced towards Ji Yufei. The flying immortal sword chi crisscrossed. This was equivalent to two Saint Venerables attacking Ji Yufei at the same time. Haha, come. Not only was Ji Yufei not afraid in the face of such a fierce attack, but he even laughed. The stronger the opponent, the better to test his own combat strength. Ji Yufei's long hair danced in the wind as he punched the old ape and stomped on the primordial celestial the arch. He was actually fighting against two Saint Venerables by himself. Everyone was stunned by this scene. This is too heaven-defying. Someone said with a trembling voice. It really is Ji Yufei. At this time, on a mountain several thousand miles away, Yuan Hong was extremely excited. Three figures moved rapidly in the void, piercing through the void. In the end, the three figures rushed into the depths of the chaos. The energy fluctuations caused by the battle caused the void to shake. An hour later, a heavenly Dao brand rushed out of the chaos and disappeared into the depths of the sky, returning to the heavenly Dao. Success. In the heavenly Emperor Palace, the Fire Emperor's face was very solemn. This was the first time he had seen someone successfully pass the heavenly tribulation. Boom. Suddenly, the void shattered and a figure rushed out of the chaos. This person was actually the primordial celestial the arch. He was in an extremely sorry state, his body tattered and covered in blood. It was hard to imagine what kind of attack he had suffered in the chaos. Haha, primordial son, to think that this day would come for you. Ji Yufei's voice came out of the chaos. A figure walked out of the chaos and instantly appeared in front of the primordial celestial the arch. Go to hell. The primordial celestial the arch directly used a killing technique. The void around Ji Yufei suddenly collapsed. He was devoured by a heaven-devouring force into a void where the sun could not be seen. Numerous immortal runes appeared in the void, turning into peerless sword light that pierced towards Ji Yufei. The sword light was densely packed in front, behind, up, down, left and right. This was the sword domain created by the primordial celestial the arch. There was only the sword here and nothing else. As long as one was trapped in the sword domain, there would only be one outcome, death. Ji Yufei was not in a hurry. With a thought, a light barrier immediately appeared around his body and enveloped him. The countless sword lights that pierced towards him were all blocked by the light barrier. What? The primordial celestial Theacher's voice rang out. He had never expected that even though he had trapped Ji Yufei in the sword domain, it would not be easy to kill Ji Yufei. I don't believe that I can't kill you. The primordial celestial the arch was furious. He operated the sword domain with all his might, causing the entire sword domain to tremble as if it could collapse at any moment. Terrifying sword lights continuously condensed in the sword domain and slashed towards Ji Yufei. Great Dao power also suppressed Ji Yufei from all directions. Immortal runes were imprinted in the void around Ji Yufei, freezing the entire void. The primordial celestial the arch wanted to obliterate Ji Yufei in the sword domain. However, the primordial celestial Theacher's expression changed in the next moment. Rumble, a supreme saint venerate power erupted from Ji Yufei's body. The entire sword domain began to tremble as pitch-black spatial cracks continuously appeared. Roar. Ji Yufei raised his head and roared. His long hair danced in the wind as the chaotic light in his eyes grew to dozens of meters long. An extremely powerful ripple of energy erupted from his body. The sword lights that were constantly piercing towards him were all shattered. Even the immortal runes imprinted in the void around him dimmed as if they could collapse at any moment. Break! Ji Yufei shouted as he punched upwards with his right fist. The supreme saint venerate fist force erupted. This was the combination of his physical body and battle technique, so it displayed unimaginable power. Boom! With a loud sound, the world shook. Ji Yufei's fist actually blasted a huge hole in the entire sword domain. He had forcefully broken through the sword domain. Ji Yufei did not hesitate and directly rushed out of the hole. How is this possible? Chapter 2680. The primordial heavenly emperor cultivated the soaring immortal swordsmanship. The soaring immortal swordsmanship domain was a killing technique cultivated by the primordial heavenly emperor. It was equivalent to opening up a world of swords. As long as one was swallowed by the soaring immortal swordsmanship, no one would be able to escape. Everyone would be killed inside, including heavenly sovereigns. Even heavenly sovereigns did not dare to enter the sword domain when they were fighting against the primordial heavenly emperor. Rumble, the sword domain collapsed, and beams of extremely sharp sword light slashed out in all directions. Every beam of sword light was like a shocking divine rainbow, directly breaking through the void of the world. Buzz. A sword light descended from the sky and landed directly on the sky above Celestial City. It slashed at the celestial light that protected the city, causing it to tremble violently. The surviving cultivators in Celestial City were shocked. However, they heaved a sigh of relief when they saw that the celestial light that protected the city was able to withstand the sword light that descended from the sky. At this time, ash could be seen everywhere in Celestial City. That was the tribulation ash left behind by the cultivators who had died under the tribulation. If a cultivator who had ignited the tribulation flame failed to pass the tribulation, he would be blasted into ashes by the tribulation. Both his body and soul would be destroyed. The sword domain of the primordial heavenly emperor collapsed as countless swordlights rushed out. The celestial palace in the sky was also struck by the swordlight, but it was also blocked by a layer of immortal light. The soaring immortal swordlight possessed great power, but the defensive formations of Celestial City and the Celestial Palace were also very powerful. Those were the lair of the primordial heavenly emperor. It was definitely not an easy task to break through the defensive formations of these two places. Boom! With a loud sound, the sword domain completely collapsed. A powerful sword energy swept out in all directions, causing the void to collapse and be annihilated. The primordial heavenly emperor was directly blown away by this force. Even Jiu Fei had no choice but to retreat. The celestial palace in the sky and celestial city on the ground were affected and constantly shook. The layer of immortal light above Celestial City blossomed with resplendent radiance. Immortal runes faintly appeared and intertwined on the immortal light. The region within a radius of 10,000 miles was in a great upheaval. The power of the sword wave that swept out directly turned the mountains into dust, dissipating in the void. The golden spirit ape Yuan Hong and the others also retreated far away to avoid being affected by the mighty power of the sword Dao. Kill. Jiu Fei directly tore through the void and charged forward. With just one step, he had already arrived before the ancient Yuan Celestial the Arch and blasted out a punch. There was no blinding divine light or monstrous energy fluctuations. It seemed like a casual punch. However, Jiu Fei's punch made the ancient Yuan heavenly theater's expression change. Turning something rotten into something magical, the ancient Yuan heavenly emperor had never imagined that Jiu Fei would be able to unleash such a punch right after undergoing the heavenly sovereign tribulation. This made him feel very uneasy. If Jiu Fei was given enough time to comprehend it, he would definitely be able to go even further on this path. Without any suspense, the primordial celestial the Arch was sent flying by Jiu Fei's punch. The power of the great path contained within this punch was extremely powerful, and the primordial celestial the Arch continuously coughed up blood. Roar. The primordial celestial the Arch roared again and again as he unleashed all sorts of shocking killing techniques. However, he had already lost all his advantages and was unable to do anything to Jiu Fei. Boom. There was a muffled sound as the primordial celestial emperor was once again sent flying by Jiu Fei's punch. Cracks appeared all over his body, as if he was a delicate piece of porcelain that could shatter at any moment. How is this possible? The primordial celestial the Arch couldn't accept this. He was on the verge of going crazy. He unleashed all 9 secrets of the immortal path and the soaring immortal sword path. However, Jiu Fei only used one punch. When the primordial celestial the Arch used the anti-void secret technique to escape into the void, he was knocked out by Jiu Fei's punch. The primordial celestial the Arch used the soaring immortal sword path. Thousands of sword lights hummed, but they were still scattered by Jiu Fei's punch. No matter how many sword lights there were, Ji Yufei's punch was enough to destroy them. Everyone was stunned by this scene. The primordial celestial the Arch was undoubtedly powerful, but he couldn't gain any advantage against Ji Yufei's fist. The primordial celestial the Arch is finished. The Flame Emperor knew that the primordial celestial the Arch was no match for Ji Yufei. The primordial celestial the Arch shouldn't be so weak. He could also see that this wasn't the real body of the primordial celestial the Arch, but a clone. His real body still hasn't appeared even now. The Flame Emperor was very curious. He didn't plan on taking action. He wanted to see if the primordial celestial the Arch would come in his real body. Di Zun. Seeing the primordial celestial the Arch being suppressed by Ji Yufei left the primordial celestial Theacher's subordinates dumbfounded. How could a Di Zun be defeated? By this time, some of the big shots from the other regions of the heavenly realm had arrived. They were all dumbfounded and shocked to see the primordial celestial the Arch being beaten so miserably by a youth. Who is that? When did the heavenly realm have such an expert? Many people were whispering to each other. At this time, a young man wearing a mysterious green divine armor rushed over from the distance and landed on a mountain peak. This young man's body was surging with a majestic draconic aura. The image of a huge dragon was faintly discernible on his body. Oh, why is he here too? Someone recognized this young man. The eldest disciple of the demon race's patriarch. Someone was secretly startled. This young man's background wasn't small. Moreover, the demon race's patriarch was extremely protective and powerful. No one dared to provoke the demon race in the heavenly realm because the current demon race's patriarch was extremely powerful. Even when the demon race was rebelling, no one dared to have any ideas. As expected, when the demon race's patriarch returned, he immediately quelled the rebellion. It really is Big Brother. The young man couldn't help but be excited when he saw the figure in the sky. Brother Monkey is here too. Xiaoqing soon sensed Yuan Hong's aura. He soared into the sky from the mountain peak and flew towards the mountain where Yuan Hong was. Where is that old tortoise? His brother is fighting, but he still has the nerve to watch from the side. When Xiaoqing landed beside Yuan Hong's voice reached Xiaoqing's ears. Xiaoqing was startled when he heard this. He just happened to be in the Eastern Earth. When he heard that someone was undergoing tribulation in the ancient celestial Theacher's lair, he immediately ran over. However, he didn't know where his master, the old tortoise, was. You are the eldest disciple of the demon race's patriarch, the Green Emperor. The Xianming Saintess, who was standing beside Yuan Hong, looked at Xiaoqing. Her eyes lit up. In recent years, the Green Emperor's fame had shaken the heaven realm. He was a rising star in the heaven realm. To be able to befriend such a person was definitely a good thing for the Xianming sect. The Xianming Saintess could use her relationship with Xiaoqing to befriend the demon race's patriarch. Boom. Chapter 2681. The Green Emperor was the Emperor of Demons. This was the name that Xiaoqing had gained in the heaven realm. He was the eldest disciple of the current demon lord. Such an identity was enough for all the powerhouses in the heaven realm to not look down on Xiaoqing. It should be said that Xiaoqing had an extremely protective master. Moreover, Xiaoqing's cultivation was also extremely powerful. He could compete with the powerhouses of the previous generation and fight for the demon lord. At this time, the battle between Ji Yufei and the ancient Yuan celestial ruler was about to end. Ji Yufei's powerful fist had directly destroyed the ancient Yuan celestial ruler's heavenly venerate immortal body. You don't have the qualifications to kill me. The ancient Yuan celestial ruler's consciousness fluctuated within the bloody mist. The bloody mist ignited and emitted a demonic bloody light. The bloody light rapidly converged and a figure appeared within it. Very quickly, all the bloody light disappeared. The ancient Yuan celestial ruler had reappeared. Moreover, his aura was also extremely tyrannical. Heaven Ascension Secret Technique. Ji Yufei couldn't help frowning. He had obtained the Heaven Ascension Secret Technique from the Violet Emperor, the only son of the ancient Yuan celestial ruler. The Heaven Ascension Secret Technique had naturally been imparted to him by the ancient Yuan celestial ruler. I already said that you don't have the qualifications to kill me. The ancient Yuan celestial ruler stared at Ji Yufei with a gloomy expression. His gaze was extremely vicious, like a venomous snake staring at Ji Yufei. Anyone else would have been intimidated by the ancient Yuan celestial ruler's gaze. However, who was Ji Yufei? He had encountered existences even more terrifying than the ancient Yuan celestial ruler. Die. Ji Yufei didn't say anything else. He simply threw another punch at the ancient Yuan celestial ruler. This was a mysterious punch. It didn't emit any divine light or energy fluctuations, but it still blasted the ancient Yuan celestial ruler into a bloody mist. This was the power of the Tao. From the complex to the simple, the rotten to the magical. Ji Yufei's usage of the Tao had reached a new level. Even an existence like the ancient Yuan celestial ruler couldn't help but be moved. This person's comprehension was truly terrifying. Damn it. The ancient Yuan celestial the Arch was both shocked and angry. He reformed his immortal body once again, and his body still exuded the powerful aura of his peak state. It didn't seem like he had been fighting for a long time. This was the wondrous aspect of the secret ascension technique. It could instantly restore a cultivator to his or her prime state. Even the wounds they received would be completely healed up. Let's see how many times you can reform your body. Ji Yufei was going all out. He threw punch after punch at the ancient Yuan Heavenly Emperor, directly turning the ancient Yuan Heavenly Emperor's heavenly venerate immortal physique into dregs. However, the primordial celestial the Arch had grasped the Heaven Ascension secret technique. Even if he was blasted to smithereens by Ji Yufei's fist, he could still reform his immortal body and continue fighting Ji Yufei. When they saw this scene, everyone became stupefied. A few old monsters saw through something and were all shocked to the extreme. The primordial Heavenly Emperor was formidable, actually grasping this type of secret technique. Damn, looks like it's hard to tell who will win. The Flame Emperor muttered to himself. The primordial celestial the Arch was basically undefeatable. The Heaven Ascension secret technique was an undying immortal art. It was said to be unkillable. Since it couldn't be killed, then the final victor would be the unkillable one. This is bad. Yuan Hong couldn't help but feel nervous. The primordial celestial the Arch had truly hidden himself well. He had actually grasped such a heaven-defying secret technique. It seemed like Ji Yufei had the upper hand, but the primordial celestial the Arch hadn't lost yet. Brother Monkey, don't worry. My big brother won't lose, Xiaoqing said. Despite saying this, he was still a little nervous. The primordial celestial the Arch wasn't an ordinary existence. He was a heavenly sovereign. In the heavenly realm, only heavenly sovereigns were qualified to be called emperors. The primordial celestial the Arch was definitely an expert among heavenly sovereigns. The situation isn't looking good, the Xianming Saintess said. Preposterous. Ji Yufei knew that this was only a clone of the primordial celestial the Arch. However, this clone was extremely powerful and shouldn't be much weaker than a true god. If he couldn't even kill a clone of the primordial celestial the Arch, then how could he fight the real body of the primordial celestial the Arch? Haha, don't waste your energy. You can't kill me. The primordial celestial Theacher's consciousness rippled through the bloody light. The primordial celestial the Arch, who had been blasted apart by Ji Yufei's punch, had once again reformed his heavenly sovereign immortal body. Is that so? Ji Yufei suddenly revealed a cold and arrogant smile. Then, he threw another punch and blasted the primordial celestial Theacher's immortal body into a bloody mist once again. I already said that you can't kill me, yet you're still trying. How foolish, haha. The primordial celestial the Arch laughed wantonly. I'll kill you right now. Ji Yufei suddenly rushed into the bloody mist. Then, a powerful suction force emerged from his body. His entire body seemed to have turned into a terrifying black hole that continuously swallowed the bloody mist around him. Rumble. The void shook as Ji Yufei's heaven-devouring power surged out and instantly enveloped the surrounding void and the bloody mist. What? You, the primordial celestial Theacher's horrified voice came from the bloody mist. The bloody mist continuously gathered towards Jiu Fei and was directly turned into nothingness by a strange force. How is this possible? You actually obtained this secret technique. This time, the primordial celestial the Arch could no longer remain calm. This secret technique was the nemesis of the Heaven Ascension secret technique, as it could turn everything in the world into nothingness. What's going on? Everyone watching from afar noticed that something was wrong. The bloody mist was glowing as if it was trying to escape. It was as if there was something terrifying on Jiu Fei's body. How is this possible? The Fire Emperor was finally moved when he saw this scene from the Celestial the Arch Palace. Big Brother is really powerful. Xiaoqing was both surprised and delighted. Jiu Fei was definitely going to win. The 9 secrets of the immortal Tao. Yuan Hong muttered to himself as he looked at the figure in the bloody mist in the distance. Jiu Fei used the void secret technique. The bloody mist around him constantly gathered towards him and was obliterated by the power of the void secret technique. Both the primordial celestial theater's power and spirit sense were turned into nothingness. At this moment, even the Heaven Ascension secret technique had lost its effect, as the power of the Heaven Ascension secret technique had also been turned into nothingness. I refuse to accept this. Only now did the primordial celestial the Arch realize that Jiu Fei had been pretending to be weak all along. Jiu Fei had made him lower his guard before dealing the fatal blow. The primordial celestial theater's Yuan spirit had been sucked in by the void secret technique. It was impossible for him to escape. Very soon, the bloody mist had been completely wiped out by Jiu Fei's void secret technique. An incomparably powerful clone had been destroyed by Jiu Fei just like that. Roar. In a mysterious place, a furious roar sounded. The entire region was shaking, and a wave of supreme immortal Tao aura surged. Who is it? Who dares to destroy my clone? Chapter 2682. The clone embodiment of the ancient celestial the Arch had been turned into nothingness by Jiu Fei's void secret art. Even though the embodiment of the ancient celestial the Arch had mastered the Heaven Ascension secret art, it was still useless. Legend had it that the void secret art was the last of the 9 secrets of the immortal path. It was a heaven-defying secret art created by the supreme Tao ancestor after he had attained enlightenment. Some people said that the 9th secret art was the nemesis of the first 8 secrets. This was definitely not groundless. After destroying the clone embodiment of the ancient celestial the Arch, Jiu Fei appeared on the mountain ridge where Xiaoqing and Yuan Hong were. He took a step forward and arrived in an instant. His speed was extremely fast. When Jiu Fei appeared in front of them, Xiaoqing and Yuan Hong were both taken aback. The mysterious underworld saintess's eyes flickered with a strange glint. No one knew what she was thinking about. Big Brother, Xiaoqing, who was extremely excited, walked forward and hugged Jiu Fei tightly. Xiaoqing, you've grown up. Jiu Fei was also very excited to see Xiaoqing. It should be known that he and Xiaoqing had met during a crisis. Back when he had been chased and met Xiaoqing, Xiaoqing had sucked away the strange poison in his body and saved his life. Back then, Xiaoqing had just been a Xiaoqing snake. Now, he had become a demon emperor and a disciple of a demon lord from the sky realm. Of course, Jiu Fei was no longer the young man who had just made his debut. They had a lot to talk about when they reunited once again. However, the two of them didn't know what to say at the moment. Jiu Fei, I didn't expect it to be you. I was wondering who would be so daring as to come to the lair of the ancient celestial the Arch to undergo tribulation. Yuan Hong, the golden spiritual ape, walked over. Brother monkey. Jiu Fei also stepped forward and hugged Yuan Hong tightly. They were brothers who treated each other with sincerity. While Jiu Fei was talking to Xiaoqing and Yuan Hong, the Celestial Emperor City and the Celestial Emperor Palace were in an uproar. Everyone could not believe that their venerable sovereigns had been killed by that young man. How is this possible? That's not true. How could Di Zun die? Countless people roared and howled at the top of their lungs. The subordinates of the ancient celestial the Arch couldn't accept this cruel reality. To the subordinates of the primordial celestial the Arch, the death of the primordial celestial the Arch was akin to the collapse of their world. Everyone felt incomparable despair. It was like a lamp in the darkness had suddenly been extinguished, plunging countless people into boundless darkness. This Jiyu Fei has finally grown up. The Fire Emperor muttered to himself. He had never intended to make a move. Jiyu Fei wasn't someone to be trifled with. He directly used the transportation formation in the Celestial Emperor Palace and left the Celestial Emperor Palace. He knew that although Jiyu Fei had destroyed the incarnation of the primordial celestial the Arch, Jiyu Fei wouldn't just let it go. Next, Jiyu Fei would attack the Celestial Emperor Palace and the Celestial Emperor City. The Fire Emperor didn't want to fight with Jiyu Fei, so he chose to leave. Big brother, shouldn't we collect some spoils of war? Xiaoqing looked at the Celestial Emperor City in front of them and said. This was the lair of the primordial celestial the Arch, so there would definitely be a lot of good stuff. They should loot it. Not bad. Yuan Hong nodded and smiled coldly. His eyes were extremely sharp as he looked at the Celestial Emperor Palace. It was as if two bolts of lightning had suddenly appeared in the void. At this moment, the eyes of the mysterious underworld saintess lit up. She immediately sent a message to the elders of the mysterious underworld sect, Black Tiger Daoist and Yang Kuan. Black Tiger Daoist and Yang Kuan immediately turned around and left. At this time, Jiyu Fei, Xiaoqing, and Yuan Hong had already soared into the sky and flew forward. Jiyu Fei had the speed of 8 steps. He took a step and appeared in the sky above the Celestial Emperor City. A powerful holy venerate aura spread out, causing the void to tremble. Rumble, the void trembled as 9 beams of primordial light circled around Jiyu Fei's body. Those were the primordial light of the Great Path. Primordial Tao runes could be vaguely seen in each beam of light. That savage is here. We must avenge the Di Zun. Kill this savage. Waves of angry roars came from the Celestial Emperor City. The crowd was very excited. Some people even soared into the sky and attacked Jiyu Fei. These people could pass through the layer of divine light that enveloped the Celestial Emperor City. The great formation laid down by the primordial Celestial Emperor was very mysterious. The people inside the Celestial Emperor City could come out, but the people outside could not enter. Kill. A powerful holy venerate aura spread out. The expert who came out from the Celestial Emperor City was actually a saint. His body erupted with monstrous divine flames that burned the void. Reckless. Jiyu Fei did not put this person in his eyes at all. He stretched out his hand and directly displayed the heaven-covering palm. A giant chaotic palm immediately appeared in the void and slammed towards the fire saint. Bang! As the chaos hand descended, the endless sacred fire was extinguished by the mighty chaos force above the chaos hand. The fire saint was also directly shaken into a cloud of blood mist, dissipating in the void along with the sacred fire. This, an incomparably powerful saint, was actually killed by Jiyu Fei. Such a ferocious might made everyone in the Celestial Emperor City speechless. The originally noisy Celestial City immediately quieted down. Not a single sound could be heard. Whoever wants to die, come at me. Jiyu Fei's words were transmitted to the ears of everyone in the Celestial Emperor City. He was like a supreme god of death, looking down on every living creature in the Celestial Emperor City. At this time, Xiaoqing also arrived in the sky above the Celestial Emperor City. Big brother, why are you talking to these guys? Let's just fight. Xiaoqing said in an overbearing manner. All right. Jiyu Fei did not hesitate any longer. He directly smashed his fist towards the Celestial Emperor City below. This was a mysterious punch. It did not emit a dazzling divine light, nor did it have a monstrous energy fluctuation. It was like a casual punch from an ordinary person. However, this mysterious punch of Jiyu Fei had directly smashed the primordial Celestial Emperor's heavenly venerate body. Boom! The sky above the Celestial Emperor City was in a great turmoil. The layer of immortal light that enveloped the Celestial Emperor City shook violently. Immortal runes constantly flashed on the immortal light. The entire Celestial Emperor City was shaken by Jiyu Fei's punch. Everyone in the Celestial Emperor City was stunned by this shocking scene. Very soon, all kinds of shouts came from the Celestial Emperor City. Everyone in the Celestial Emperor City knew that the situation was anything but reassuring. This was definitely not a good thing for everyone in the city. It would definitely be a disaster if this savage attacked the Celestial Emperor City. Countless cultivators in the city did not want to see such a scene. Ayo, this tortoise shell is quite hard. Jiu Fei was somewhat surprised. He was very clear about the power of his punch, but it still couldn't break through the layer of immortal light that enveloped the Celestial Emperor City. Again, Jiu Fei threw another punch. This punch was much stronger than the first one. However, there was still no eye-catching scene after the punch was thrown. It was an ordinary punch, but it could shake the heaven and earth. When Jiu Fei punched, the layer of immortal light in the sky above the Celestial Emperor City immediately rippled like water. The immortal runes on the immortal light actually showed signs of collapsing. What? How is this possible? Everyone turned pale with fright. The strength of the savage outside was too strong. He actually managed to shake the defensive formation personally deployed by Di Zun. Everyone in the Celestial Emperor City thought that even Di Zun had died in the hands of this savage. It didn't seem impossible for the other party to break the defensive formation deployed by Di Zun. Everyone was panicking. Some people wanted to activate the transportation formations in the Celestial Emperor City, hoping to escape from the Celestial Emperor City. Not everyone in the Celestial Emperor City was a subordinate of the primordial Heavenly Emperor. Many of them were guests who had come to congratulate the primordial Heavenly Emperor. However, these people were all trapped inside the Celestial Emperor City, trying to escape. Jiu Fei saw an immortal light rushing out from the back of the Celestial Emperor City. Someone was using the transportation formation. Open for me. Jiu Fei displayed his supreme strength and blasted out another punch. This time, he used his full strength and blasted a huge hole in the layer of immortal light with absolute power. The savage is killing his way in. Everyone in the Celestial Emperor City was scared out of their wits by Jiu Fei. They were scrambling to escape, but where could they escape to? However, there were still some people who escaped the Celestial Emperor City through the transportation formation in the Celestial Emperor City. Buzz. Jiu Feichong slaughtered his way into Celestial City and directly shot out a primal chaos sword light. The primal chaos sword light descended from the sky and directly slashed a teleportation array platform in the City Lord's mansion into two. Several experts standing on the transportation formation were instantly turned into a few clouds of blood mist. They were directly killed by the primal chaos sword light unleashed by Jiu Fei. At this time, Xiaoqing followed behind Jiu Fei and also killed his way into the Celestial Emperor City. He went straight to the Celestial Emperor City with the black rod in his hand and directly smashed the immortal soldiers and generals that came to stop him into a cloud of blood mist. The black rod in Xiaoqing's hand had a great origin. It was a supreme level long rod that the old turtle obtained by chance. Once it smashed down, even an expert stronger than Xiaoqing would be smashed to death. Green Emperor, you are going too far. An old man walked out from the Celestial Emperor City and directly faced the charging Xiaoqing. He began to fight with Xiaoqing. Ch, the weak are prey to the strong. In my dictionary, there is no such thing as going too far. Xiaoqing swung the black rod and smashed it down on the old man's head. That old man seemed to know how powerful the black rod was. He didn't dare to face Xiaoqing head-on and immediately dodged. Swish. That old man waved his hand. 9 rays of sword light immediately rushed out from his hand and turned into an incomparably sharp sword light, piercing towards Xiaoqing. Xiaoqing snorted coldly. He directly waved the black rod in his hand and smashed the 9 rays of sword light. After that, he rushed towards the old man with incomparable strength. Chapter 2683. Jiu Fei had breached the Celestial City and cut a transmission array in the City Lord's mansion in half, cutting off the escape route of the powerhouses in the Celestial City. He was incomparably powerful as he directly killed his way into the City Lord's mansion with his fists. He killed every powerhouse that rushed out from all directions with a single punch. No one could withstand his punch. It was a pair of mystical fists that had already broken away from the limitations of martial arts. They were casually thrown out without any powerful energy fluctuations. Only Dao charm lingered around them. This was the power of the Great Path. Although there were no powerful energy fluctuations emanating from Ji Yufei's fists, the power displayed by his fists was many times stronger than when he was at the peak of the Great Sage Realm. Even the incomparably powerful incarnation of the ancient Heavenly Emperor had been smashed into a mass of blood mist by his fists, let alone the others. Ji Yufei, don't go too far. A roar came from the main hall of the City Lord's mansion. At this time, Ji Yufei had already killed his way to the plaza in front of the main hall of the City Lord's mansion. Figures flashed around the plaza as powerhouses constantly rushed over from all directions. These people were die-hard followers of the ancient Heavenly Emperor. All of them attacked Ji Yufei without any regard for their own lives. The entire plaza was stained with blood. There were no corpses on the ground, only bloodstains. This was because everyone who had been hit by Ji Yufei's fists, regardless of whether they were immortals or saints, had been completely destroyed and turned into a mass of blood mist. Even the immortal and sage weapons that these people were carrying had been smashed into ashes by Ji Yufei's fists and scattered on the ground. The stench of blood was pungent on Guangqing, but Ji Yufei was completely unaware of it. His fighting spirit was like a rainbow as his gaze swept across the main hall of the City Lord's mansion like cold lightning. He stood in the middle of the plaza with his long hair fluttering even though there was no wind. 9 rays of primal chaos light wandered around his body. The powerful aura of a heavenly venerate made everyone feel despair. He was too powerful. Even the true body of the ancient Heavenly Emperor might not be able to suppress this fierce person. Am I going too far? Haha. What a joke. Ji Yufei laughed heartily. Back when he was still weak, didn't the primordial celestial emperor chase him for millions of miles and force him into an ominous land? At this moment, a man in white walked out of the main hall of the City Lord's mansion. This was an old man dressed in white. This old man was tall and had a horsetail whisk in his hand. He carried an ancient sword on his back and wore a golden crown on his head. He looked like an immortal. Who are you? Why aren't you running? When Ji Yufei saw this Daoist, he could not help feeling somewhat surprised. This person was actually a holy venerate, an immortal Dao holy venerate. He was incredibly powerful and had already reached the realm of returning to his true self. That was because there was no immortal light around his body. Even though he was just standing there, he gave off a feeling as if he was bathing in a spring breeze. If one was not careful, they would be affected by his aura and let down their guard. Of course, with Ji Yufei's cultivation, he would not be affected by the old Daoist's aura. My Daoist title is Emergence. As soon as the old Daoist said this, the sky rumbled and the sky changed color. It was as if this title was a terrifying taboo. Emergence Holy Venerate. You. Ji Yufei's brows couldn't help but twitch when he heard this. One must know that this title wasn't something that just anyone could use, nor was it something that just anyone could bear. The Emergence Holy Venerate was one of the 9 disciples of the Supreme Dao Ancestor and the wielder of the Emergence Secret Art. The Supreme Dao Ancestor had passed the Emergence Secret Art to this immortal Dao Holy Venerate. What? You don't believe me? The old Daoist was a little annoyed when he saw Ji Yufei looking at him suspiciously. His face immediately darkened. It would be strange if I believed you. If you were the Emergence Holy Venerate, then I would be the Supreme Dao Ancestor. Ji Yufei said disdainfully. He did not believe that this guy was the Emergence Holy Venerate at all. After all, if the other party was the Emergence Holy Venerate, then Ji Yufei could only run away. The real Emergence Holy Venerate would definitely not be so weak. Countless years had passed, and the Emergence Holy Venerate had obtained the inheritance of the Supreme Dao Ancestor. His cultivation realm was probably higher than that of the human realm's Heavenly Emperor Ziyang. Heavenly Emperor Ziyang was the youngest disciple of the Supreme Dao Ancestor, but he was already a Holy Venerate. Moreover, the Emergence Holy Venerate had followed the Supreme Dao Ancestor for a longer time than Heavenly Emperor Ziyang. How dare you look down on the Supreme Dao Ancestor? You deserve to die. The old Daoist who called himself the Emergence Holy Venerate was furious. He directly attacked Ji Yufei and stretched out his right hand to grab Ji Yufei. Rumble. The void shook and a black vortex appeared in the old Daoist's palm. The void in front of his palm collapsed and was swallowed by the vortex in his palm. At that moment, Jiu Fei felt his body tighten. He was instantly enveloped by a powerful suction force. Then, he flew forward uncontrollably. You don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. How dare you be so arrogant in front of me? I will send you on your way. The old Daoist's face revealed a cruel smile. He thought that this ferocious person was only SOSO and was no match for him at all. In the old Daoist's opinion, the primordial heavenly emperor was really too useless. This person had actually destroyed one of his clones. However, just as the old Daoist thought that he could kill Jiu Fei, a fist rapidly enlarged in front of his eyes. Bang! The old Daoist's right eye was punched hard. This punch caused the old Daoist's vision to darken. He staggered and almost fell to the ground. The old Daoist was shocked and angry. He never thought that Jiu Fei would be able to break through his great technique and even punch him. What? Aren't you very arrogant? You're even the emergence holy venerate. Bang! Jiu Fei fiercely punched the old Daoist's nose again, causing his nose to bleed and his face to cave in. Roar! The old Daoist almost went crazy. He used his killing technique with all his might. An immortal light spread from his body and turned into light blades that slashed in all directions. Screams rang out everywhere. Many of the experts around the square were slashed by the immortal light blades. They were directly killed. Even their primordial spirits couldn't escape. By this time, Jiu Fei had already dodged. However, this old Daoist seemed to have a very high status. Even though he had accidentally killed many people, no one dared to say anything. They were all angry, but they didn't dare to say anything. Boom! At this moment, a loud sound came from the city lord's residence. The two huge stone doors were actually sent flying from the outside and smashed inwards. Chapter 2684. Xiaoqing charged into the city lord's mansion. He was extremely domineering as he brandished the black rod in his hand. All the experts who charged at him were killed by his black rod. Everyone was extremely shocked at the sight of this. No one dared to charge forward again. They allowed Xiaoqing to enter the city lord's mansion and arrive at the side of the square. Jiu Fei, I want you dead. The fake Saint Master of Emergence roared as he charged at Jiu Fei, who was standing on the square in front of the main hall. He had a ferocious look on his face. He no longer had the demeanor of a reclusive expert that he had when he first appeared. Me. A fake dares to clamor here? You really don't know what's good for you. Jiu Fei looked disdainfully at the fake Saint Master of Emergence who was charging at him. He did not take this so-called Saint Master of Emergence seriously at all. Buzz! The ancient sword on the fake Saint Master of Emergence's back let out a buzzing sound. It then turned into a dazzling sword light and rushed out of its scabbard. An extremely powerful wave of sword chi immediately spread from the sword light. The sword light split the void between heaven and earth as it charged at Jiu Fei. The surrounding temperature dropped rapidly due to the impact of the cold sword chi. Hey! Jiu Fei could not help but feel a little surprised when he sensed the wave of sword chi coming from the sword light. This sword seemed to be very unusual, which made him pay attention to it. However, the holy venerate martial body was extremely powerful. Jiu Fei was very confident in his martial body. He directly threw a punch, which collided with the sword light. Clang! A metallic sound rang out when Jiu Fei's fist collided with the sword light. The sword light was knocked away by his punch. However, Jiu Fei also felt a pain in his fist at the same time. He quickly looked down and saw a blood-red sword mark on his right fist. Beads of blood seeped out from the sword mark. What? Jiu Fei was shocked. The opponent's sword could actually injure him. How was this possible? Even if it was a saint venerable sword, it should not be able to injure him. With a thought, the sword mark on Jiu Fei's fist quickly disappeared. At this moment, the light that the sword had turned into had already shot towards Jiu Fei. The ripples of sword chi on the light became even sharper and more powerful. Preposterous! Jiu Fei didn't believe it. He waved his fists and smashed them at the sword light. The clanging sound was endless, and the sword light was constantly sent flying by his fists. At that moment, the person who was even more shocked than Ji Fei was the fake Saint Venerate of the emergent Saint Venerate. He knew very well how powerful his sword was. In the past, he had only needed to take out this sword to kill his opponents. It was the same even for opponents who were also Saint Venerates. Many Saint Venerates had died to this sword. The sword was stained with the blood of more than one Saint Venerate. The fake Saint Venerate of the emergent Saint Venerate, whose face was covered in blood after being punched twice by Ji Fei, sat down with his legs crossed. He operated his mysterious technique and activated the sword with all his might. Runes appeared on the sword light, and a ripple of sword chi spread out from the sword light. It was so powerful that even the heavens and the earth paled in comparison. Under the impact of the sword chi, transparent ripples appeared in the void, like transparent ripples on water. Kill. The fake Saint Venerate of the emergent Saint Venerate performed a seal with both hands and sent a rune into the sword light. Buzz. The divine sword vibrated, and a ripple of sword chi that made even Ji Fei's heart palpitate erupted from the sword light. The power of the divine sword seemed to have been detonated. Swoosh. The sword light was like a rainbow as it descended from the sky. Runes circled around the sword light, as if the sword of heaven was punishing Ji Fei. It emitted a terrifying power that could destroy heaven and earth. At that moment, Ji Fei's fists were densely covered with sword marks. This sword was incredible. It had definitely surpassed the level of a Saint Venerate. It was definitely a quasi-supreme sword. Although the emergent Saint Venerate was a fake, his sword was a genuine quasi-supreme sword. The power of this quasi-supreme sword was fully unleashed. Even though Ji Fei had an extremely powerful Holy Venerate martial body, it was difficult for him to compete with it at this moment. Oh no! Ji Fei's face turned extremely serious as he faced the peerless sword light descending from the sky. He had left the mountain and river cauldron in the human realm. Otherwise, he could have used it to fight against this sword. Of course, he still had other extreme saint weapons on him. Ji Fei did not think too much about it. After all, the sword light had already arrived. There was no time for him to think. He flipped his right hand and a big black saber immediately appeared in his hand. As soon as the black saber appeared, a domineering aura immediately spread from it. This aura made the hearts of all living beings in the world palpitate. Clang! Ji Fei directly swung the big black saber in his hand at the sword light descending from the sky. The big black saber and the sword light collided, producing a metallic sound. Immediately, the sword let out a cry and was actually sent flying by the big black saber. How is this possible? Seeing this scene, the fake emergent Saint Venerate was extremely shocked. His opponent's inconspicuous big black saber was actually so powerful that it could send his sword flying. I'll send you on your way. Ji Fei took a step forward and instantly arrived in front of the fake emergent Saint Venerate. He directly swung his saber at the fake emergent Saint Venerate's head. However, just as Ji Fei made his move, the fake emergent Saint Venerate had already crushed a jade talisman. A ball of immortal light directly rushed out of the broken jade talisman and enveloped his entire body. Then, with a swoosh, he and the ball of immortal light instantly disappeared into the void. Ji Fei's saber slashed through the air. He withdrew his saber in time. Otherwise, if he had really slashed down, the entire City Lord's mansion would have probably been split in half. He fled. Ji Fei was slightly surprised. This guy was too cautious. He fled before the outcome of the battle had been decided. At this moment, the sword that was sent flying by Ji Fei's saber also broke through the void and disappeared without a trace. A psychic sword. It's only one step away from transforming into a real supreme sword. This sword must have an extraordinary origin. Ji Fei muttered to himself. Big brother. At this moment, Xiaoqing walked over. I'll leave this place to you. Those who surrender will not be killed, but those who don't will be killed without mercy, Ji Fei said to Xiaoqing. Then, he directly entered the rear hall of the City Lord's mansion. The rear hall was where the City Lord of Celestial City kept all kinds of treasures. After receiving the order, Xiaoqing immediately took action. Chapter 2685. The Golden Spiritual Ape Clan had always been domineering. Yuan Hong was no exception. His clan was naturally warlike. In the distant past, they were once known as the War Clan. Boom! Yuan Hong used all his strength to send an immortal general flying thousands of meters away. His golden hair danced in the wind, displaying his incomparable battle prowess. He had a supreme bloodline and heaven-defying talent. After being in seclusion for so long, his cultivation had already reached the Saint Sovereign realm. This clan was known as the War Clan, and their battle prowess far surpassed their opponents of the same level. Roar! The immortal general roared furiously at the sky. His voice shook the sky as a surge of immortal energy erupted from his body. It was so powerful that even Yuan Hong was shaken. Although this immortal general looked young, the immortal armor he wore was extremely ancient. He held an ancient battle spear in his hand, looking like a war immortal from the primordial era. This immortal general was the protector of the heavenly sovereign palace. Although he was only an immortal general, the battle prowess he displayed was absolutely shocking. This level of battle prowess was probably no weaker than the Fire Emperor. BZZ, the immortal general, shook the spear in his hand. An immortal light immediately shot out from the spear, turning into a heavenly river that pierced towards Yuan Hong. Yuan Hong's rod smashed down, directly shattering the immortal light. Then, he took a step forward and instantly appeared before the immortal general, smashing down with his rod. In the face of absolute power, immortal arts were useless. Yuan Hong's simple and direct attack was enough to break his opponent's immortal arts. BZZ, the instant Yuan Hong's golden rod smashed down, it emitted a dazzling golden light that dyed the entire heaven and earth golden. Within the golden light, runes could be faintly seen. The power of the metal element sealed the entire space. Just in time, the immortal general's eyes shot out two purple lightning bolts. The spear in his hand pierced upwards. Immortal runes appeared on the surface of the spear, breaking through the layers of golden light. The ancient battle spear displayed great power. The tip of the spear directly pierced into the golden rod. However, Yuan Hong's strike was shockingly powerful. The spear in the immortal general's hand was immediately bent and his wrist was shattered. Roar! Yuan Hong bellowed as he exerted more strength in his hands. An extremely ferocious force erupted from the golden rod, directly knocking away the spear in the immortal general's hand. Bam! The rod smashed into the immortal general's right shoulder. The ancient immortal armor on the immortal general's body shone, a wave of immortal Tao power surging. Even so, the sound of bones shattering could still be heard from the immortal general's body. Then, his entire body fell from the sky like a meteorite falling from the sky. Boom! He smashed into the ground. The earth shook, and the ground collapsed. Dust rose high into the sky, and a bottomless pit appeared on the ground. At this moment, everyone in the Heaven Empyrean Palace was dumbfounded when they saw this scene. Some of the elders in the Heaven Empyrean Palace knew the identity of that immortal general, which made them even more astonished. Roar! A deep roar came from the depths of the earth, causing the entire region to tremble. A terrifying saint-venerable energy surged out from the depths of the earth. Kill! Yuan Hong rushed down from the sky like a golden sun descending from the sky, directly falling into the ground. The powerful metal elemental power was vast and mighty. The eruption of the battle caused the earth to undulate like waves. Shouts could be heard from the depths of the earth as the ground sank and cracked. The person fighting against Yuan Hong was an ancient immortal sovereign. Even if he wasn't a primordial sovereign, he wasn't too far off. Apart from the 9 primordial sovereigns under the supreme Tao ancestor, there were also many others who had reached the saint venerable realm. This ancient immortal sovereign was most likely not one of them. At this time, in the celestial city, Jiu Fei directly entered the depths of the City Lord's mansion and arrived in front of the treasury of the City Lord's mansion. He discovered that this place was covered densely in symbols. It was unknown just how many layers of formations were laid here. Immortal light swirled about. Jiu Fei couldn't help but rejoice. This treasury was protected by layers of formations, so there were naturally many good things inside. As long as these formations were broken, everything inside would belong to him. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but look forward to it. One should know that this was the treasury of the primordial heavenly Empyrean. The primordial heavenly Empyrean had dominated the eastern domain for countless years. There would definitely be a large number of treasures in this treasury. At this time, another battle broke out in front of the city lord's mansion. Xiaoqing wielded a black rod and fought against two saints. Green Emperor, leave your life here. A black-bearded middle-aged saint extended his hand. A giant green hand immediately appeared in the void and grabbed at Xiaoqing. Rumble. The space around them was crumbling. The giant hand emanated incredibly powerful power of the divine path, shattering the space around them right away, displaying incredible might. Xiaoqing didn't say anything. He directly smashed down with his rod and the giant green hand immediately collapsed in the void. Then, he instantly approached the saint and was about to make his move. At this time, the other saint also made his move. A beam of cold light directly shot at Xiaoqing's forehead at an extremely fast speed. Xiaoqing was shocked and quickly tilted his head. The beam of cold light brushed past his hair, causing a few strands of hair to flutter in the air. How dare you? Xiaoqing reached out and touched his hand. There were actually some bloodstains on his hand, which made him furious. Die. Xiaoqing directly pounced at the saint who had launched a sneak attack. He swung the black rod in his hand and directly smashed it down on the saint's head. At this time, the beam of cold light flew back from afar and pierced towards Xiaoqing. It was a diamond bracelet. There were 9 barren patterns unique to saints branded within it. It triggered a powerful saint-level energy and displayed terrifying power. Even Xiaoqing was injured. He had the true dragon sacred body, which was extremely powerful and far surpassed ordinary saints. You don't know what's good for you. Xiaoqing roared and directly punched forward. A huge dragon immediately rushed out of his fist and let out an earth-shattering dragon roar, pouncing towards the saint. This was a killing technique of the dragon clan, the true dragon fist. At the same time, the black rod in Xiaoqing's hand smashed behind him. With a clang, the diamond bracelet was immediately smashed into pieces. The 9 runes contained within the diamond bracelet immediately dissipated in the void. What? The saint's expression immediately changed. The diamond bracelet had been smashed, and he was also affected. Boom. At this time, Xiaoqing's true dragon fist had already arrived. With a muffled sound, the saint was actually sent flying by the huge dragon. Bam! With a loud sound, his back slammed heavily onto a stone pillar. It directly broke the stone pillar into several pieces, and then he rolled on the ground. Whoa! The saint stood up from the ground. His face was flushed red, and then he opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of scarlet blood. The front of his shirt was instantly stained with blood. The saint was extremely shocked. He had never expected the Green Emperor to be so powerful. He had just attacked and he had already spat out blood. How was this possible? Just as Xiaoqing sent the saint flying, a sword chime sounded. A dazzling sword light rushed out from the body of the black-bearded saint and slashed towards Xiaoqing. You overestimate yourself. A cold smile appeared on Xiaoqing's face. He directly waved the black rod in his hand and smashed it towards the sword light. Clang! The black rod smashed against the sword light. Instantly, sparks flew in all directions. The sword light dissipated, and the body of the sword was smashed into several pieces. The inscriptions within it collapsed and transformed into scrap metal. The black-bearded saint's expression changed drastically. He retreated in panic. The destruction of his natal sword was a huge blow to him. After all, most of his abilities were on his natal sword. You want to kill me with just this bit of ability? How laughable. Xiaoqing glanced disdainfully at the two saints. The black rod in your hand. The black-bearded saint stared at the black rod in Xiaoqing's hand. He was extremely shocked. This black rod was incredible. It could actually destroy a saint weapon with ease. The two saints found it hard to believe that an inconspicuous black rod could actually possess such might. You only realized now? It's too late. Xiaoqing did not give the two saints any chance. He directly charged forward and smashed the black-bearded saint into a mist of blood. Both his body and soul were destroyed. The other saint wanted to escape. He transformed into a ray of divine light and shot into the sky. Do you think you can leave? Xiaoqing laughed coldly. After that, he stretched out his hand and executed the true dragon claw. An enormous dragon claw immediately appeared in the sky and grabbed the ray of divine light that the saint had transformed into. He did not hesitate and directly destroyed the saint's body and soul. Too weak. Old Yuan's subordinates are really too weak. Xiaoqing shook his head and glanced at the crowd. At this moment, all the cultivators standing around the square were extremely terrified. The person before them was simply a terrifying god of death. The square in front of the city lord's mansion was extremely silent. No one dared to speak. Everyone looked at Xiaoqing with fear in their eyes. Xiaoqing paid no attention to these people. He directly walked into the main hall of the city lord's mansion. After that, he entered the back hall and arrived at the treasury of the city lord's mansion. You dealt with them so quickly? Ji Yufei asked when he saw Xiaoqing arrive. They're just some small fries. It's not difficult to deal with them. Xiaoqing was very confident. Come and take a look. This treasury is not simple. Ji Yufei said to Xiaoqing. Upon hearing this, Xiaoqing immediately walked over and carefully observed the runes on the treasury with Ji Yufei. At this moment, the void thousands of miles away from the ancient Yuan celestial theatre's lair suddenly collapsed. A spatial door appeared in the void. Chapter 2686. That night, countless cultivators in the eastern land were unable to sleep. Someone actually dared to attack the celestial emperor of the eastern land and had even broken into Celestial City. When the news spread, all the cultivators were shocked to the extreme. Even the cultivators in the other regions of the heavenly realm had received the news. Who is Ji Yufei? He's actually so powerful to directly attack Yuan Gu's lair. I've heard of this name before. Someone said something like that. Back then, Ji Yufei caused quite a commotion in the eastern land of the heavenly realm. He was chased by the celestial emperor for thousands of miles and had no choice but to retreat to a dangerous place. Almost all the cultivators in the eastern land of the heavenly realm knew about this matter. Especially when the Violet Emperor was killed by Ji Yufei, it shocked everyone. One should know that the Violet Emperor was the only son of the Celestial Emperor of the Eastern Land, Yuan Jiyu. He was second only to the Celestial Emperor. It's actually him. He actually appeared again. Someone knew who Ji Yufei was. At this time, the moon was shining brightly in the sky. A portal appeared in the void thousands of miles away from Celestial City. Groups of soldiers wearing black armor and holding spears walked out of the portal. Soon, a large number of black-armored soldiers stood in front of the void door. No one spoke. Countless silhouettes stood there quietly. Only the sounds of armors colliding could be heard. These were the black demon soldiers of the Xianming sect. Every soldier emitted a powerful and fierce aura, as if they were gods of death that had crawled out of hell. This is our last trump card. Saintess, are we really going to stake it all on this? Elder Yang Kuan, who commanded the black demon soldiers, said to the Saintess. Yes, aren't we being too rash? You should know that Yuan Jiyu is known for having thousands of incarnations. Before we kill his true body, I think it's better for us to preserve our strength for now. The Black Tiger Taoist also said. How can we accomplish great things if we are afraid of the slightest thing? This is a golden opportunity for our mysterious dark sect to make a comeback. If we miss this opportunity, it will be difficult for our mysterious dark sect to rise again. The mysterious underworld saintess said disapprovingly. Her attitude was very firm. While Ji Yufei and the others were still around, it was not impossible to take down Yuan Gu's lair in one go. Moreover, the chances of this happening were very high. The only variable was the Yuan ancient heavenly emperor. No one knew whether or not his true body would descend. It must be known that the Yuan ancient heavenly emperor would lose a great deal of face if his lair was lost. Since sect leader Saintess has said so, let's go all out. Elder Yang Kuan said excitedly. He knew that such an opportunity was fleeting. If he did not grasp it, he would regret it for the rest of his life. Only Daoist Black Tiger had a solemn expression and did not say anything. At that moment, the void door disappeared. The 50,000 black demon soldiers stood quietly in the void. This was the last force of the Xianming sect. The ferocious aura of the 50,000 black demon soldiers gathered together. In the sky above the 50,000 soldiers, a huge black skull was faintly discernible, emitting endless ferocious aura. That is, some people were stunned when they saw the countless black demon soldiers. Wasn't the Xianming sect destroyed by the Yuan ancient heavenly emperor a long time ago? Someone exclaimed. Are those the black demon soldiers of the Xianming sect? Someone asked. I didn't expect the Xianming sect to have such strength. Many people found it unbelievable. After all, the Yuan ancient heavenly emperor had killed his way to the Xianming sect's ancestral court. After that, the remaining forces of the Xianming sect had been chased down by the Yuan ancient heavenly emperor and vanished like smoke. No one had expected that the Xianming sect would still have such a powerful force at this time. Each of the 50,000 black demon soldiers was an existence that had experienced hundreds of battles. They would not be inferior even to the celestial emperor's celestial weapon. While the Xianming sect was gathering the black demon soldiers, the battle between the golden spiritual ape Yuan Hong and the ancient immortal venerate was still going on. The ancient immortal venerate had achieved the Tao in ancient times. He had lived for countless years and experienced countless battles. It could be said that he was an expert who had climbed out of a pile of corpses. His contemporaries were all dead. His companions who had fought alongside him in the past had also fallen. Only he had survived. Such an existence was simply like a god of war. His rich combat experience was something that few people in this world could compare to. Rumble, in the depths of the earth, an incomparably powerful immortal energy was erupting. The earth was constantly cracking and sinking. Even magma was gushing out of some places. At this time, Jiyu Fei and Xiaoqing had already begun to break the formation. They were determined to obtain the treasures in the treasury of Celestial City. Even if they had to destroy them, they would not leave them for the Yuan ancient heavenly emperor. Buzz. The void trembled as Jiyu Fei and Xiaoqing used the void secret word at the same time. The power of the void secret word spread out from their hands. The runes were melted by the power of the void secret word. Very quickly, Jiyu Fei and Xiaoqing broke the 19 immortal formations together. There was no difficulty at all. The void secret word was simply the nemesis of all Tao patterns. Even the immortal Tao patterns of the heavenly venerate level were melted by it. Moreover, Jiyu Fei and the Yuan ancient heavenly emperor were both at the heavenly venerate level. The formation laid down by the Yuan ancient heavenly emperor naturally could not stop them. However, when Jiyu Fei and Xiaoqing broke the 20th immortal formation, a terrifying aura immediately spread out. 9 terrifying sword qi rushed out and pierced towards Jiyu Fei and Xiaoqing. Jiyu Fei quickly pulled Xiaoqing behind him. Then, he extended his hand and sent out a palm strike. The vast and mighty primal chaos qi immediately blocked the 9 sword lights. The 9 extremely sharp sword lights immediately dissipated in the void. Jiyu Fei was extremely shocked. He saw a stone carving floating in front of him. The stone carving was surrounded by primal chaos qi, and there were 9 sword scars on it. A terrifying sword intent was emanating from the 9 sword scars. Big brother, Xiaoqing walked out from behind Jiyu Fei with lingering fear. The 9 sword lights were too powerful. If it wasn't for Jiyu Fei, he would have died under the 9 sword lights. I didn't expect someone to leave behind such a terrifying sword intent. Jiyu Fei muttered to himself as he stared at the stone floating in front of him with incomparable shock. Sword intent. Xiaoqing couldn't help but be startled when he heard this. He had almost died under a sword intent just now. This was too unbelievable. How could a sword intent be so powerful? The person who left behind this sword intent was very powerful and terrifying. Even time couldn't erase this sword intent. Chapter 2687. This was an ancient stone carving that exuded an ancient aura. Sword light circulated above the 9 sword scars. The sword light on the 9 sword scars wasn't intense, but the sword intent was extremely sharp. The surrounding temperature dropped, and the void seemed to be frozen. This, Xiaoqing was extremely shocked. This sword intent was really extraordinary. Although he was already a saint-grade existence, he still couldn't withstand this sword intent. It should be known that he was a sacred dragon, so his constitution was naturally much stronger than that of an ordinary saint. An ordinary saint would not dare to stay here. Boss, this is a treasure, Xiaoqing exclaimed excitedly. I also know that this thing is a treasure, but it isn't that easy to obtain. Ji Yufei's eyes lit up. Step back first, Ji Yufei told Xiaoqing. All right. Xiaoqing nodded and stepped back. Given his current cultivation base, he definitely wouldn't be able to withstand the sword intent on the stone carving if it was activated. Ji Yufei carefully walked forward after seeing Xiaoqing step back. He saw that the stone carving was suspended in the void, as if it was being supported by an invisible force. This was the last layer of the seal. As long as he could obtain this stone carving, he would be able to open the door to the treasury. Ji Yufei couldn't help but admire the ancient Yuan Heavenly Emperor for actually doing this. If his sacred venerate martial body hadn't been strong enough, even he would have been injured if he hadn't been able to defend himself. At the moment, there was still a sharp pain in his right hand. Although it seemed like he had easily blocked the 9 sword lights when the sword intent had erupted, a trace of sword chi had still invaded his palm. Although he had immediately expelled the sword chi that had invaded his palm, he still felt waves of pain in his hand. Ji Yufei noticed that the stone inscription in front of him had changed after he had only taken 3 steps. The sword gleams emitted by the 9 sword marks on the stone inscription gradually became stronger. At this time, Ji Yufei was shocked to discover that there were actually Dao patterns faintly appearing in the void. Like a spider web, they were densely packed and wrapped around the stone inscription. You're still using this move? Ji Yufei couldn't help frowning. It seemed that the primordial celestial the arch was truly sinister. There were actually countless Dao runes imprinted in the void. As long as someone approached the stone carvings, those Dao runes would trigger the sword intent within them. Buzz. As Ji Yufei thought about it, the void trembled. The power of the word nothing spread out from his body. The Dao patterns in the void around him were immediately turned into nothingness by the word nothing. At that moment, the stone carving floating in the air began to shake. The 9 sword marks released a supreme sword intent. It was as if an unparalleled expert of the sword had appeared in the world. What's going on? In the back hall of the City Lord Palace, outside the entrance to the treasury, Xiaoqing was extremely shocked. A terrifying sword intent had erupted from within. Rumble. The entire City Lord Palace immediately began to shake. Everyone was extremely shocked, as they didn't know what was going on. Cold sword chi surged out from the depths of the City Lord Palace. Everyone felt a chill run down their spines, as if a peerless divine weapon had been pressed against their throats. Just as Ji Yufei was using all his strength to resist the peerless sword intent that had erupted from the stone inscription, the mysterious underworld saintess had already led the black demon soldiers and charged towards the Sky Emperor Palace in the sky. The square formation of 50,000 black demon soldiers was like a black cloud as they charged over from the distance, their ferocious aura filling the air. At that moment, all the subordinates of the primordial celestial the Arch in the Sky Emperor Palace were extremely shocked. They had never imagined that the mysterious underworld sect would actually jump out at this time. Furthermore, the fact that the mysterious underworld sect still had such strength was simply unbelievable. Kill. Within the Heavenly Sovereign Palace, squads of silver-armored soldiers quickly assembled, and then, under the leadership of an immortal general, charged out of the Heavenly Sovereign Palace. This was a remnant army with less than 10,000 soldiers that had survived the heavenly tribulation. Only these 100,000 celestial the Arch soldiers were left. Moreover, these less than 10,000 celestial emperor battle soldiers were not the strongest battle soldiers. Instead, they were the weakest battle soldiers. This was because the stronger battle soldiers and generals had their tribulation fire ignited by the tribulation attracting force and died under the heavenly tribulation. Kill. The mysterious underworld saintess led the 50,000 black demon soldiers and charged towards the celestial the Arch soldiers. Boom. It was as if 2 torrents had collided in an instant. In an instant, Many figures fell from the sky and blood splattered everywhere. This was an immortal war, so countless immortals were destined to fall. Roar. Daoist Black Tiger roared, then opened his mouth and inhaled. Immediately, 1,000 celestial emperor warriors were swallowed into his stomach. He was extremely ferocious. Die, you evil creature. When an immortal general saw this, he immediately charged over and clashed with He-Hu Daoist. At this time, Elder Yang Kuan also attacked with all his might. A black moon floated behind his head and emitted rays of crescent-shaped black light that slashed in all directions. The celestial the arch soldiers were struck by the black light and instantly turned into ashes. Both their bodies and souls were destroyed. The Xianming Saintess released beams of black light from her hands, which instantly pierced through the bodies of a large number of Celestial Emperor's combat soldiers. In an instant, the bodies of these Celestial Emperor's combat soldiers shriveled up rapidly, turning into skin and bones. It was as if their spirit chi had been completely devoured by the black light. The Celestial the arch soldiers were utterly defeated. The saint-level warlord was killed by Yang Kuan and the Black Tiger Daoist, and nearly 10,000 Celestial the arch soldiers were killed. Everyone in the Sky Emperor Palace couldn't help but be shocked when they saw this scene. They couldn't believe that the black demon soldiers of the mysterious underworld sect were so powerful. Moreover, there were 3 saint-level and above experts in the enemy's camp. The experts in the Sky Emperor Palace directly activated an even more powerful formation to seal the Sky Emperor Palace. How many casualties? At this time, the mysterious underworld Saintess was reorganizing the black demon soldiers. There aren't many casualties. Only a little more than 1,000 soldiers were killed. The Black Tiger Daoist said. Very good. The mysterious underworld Saintess was overjoyed. She could finally vent the anger that she had suppressed for many years. This great victory made her excited and excited. Is the thing ready? The mysterious underworld Saintess asked Yang Kuan. It's ready. Yang Kuan nodded and said. Then let's do it. The mysterious underworld Saintess said. A sharp light flashed in her eyes. Yang Kuan nodded and took out a big red gourd from his waist. Then, he walked forward and came to the front of the Sky Emperor Palace. Without saying anything, he pulled out the stopper of the gourd and patted the bottom of the gourd. Boom. Chapter 2688. Yellow Spring Water. The experts in the Heavenly Emperor Palace exclaimed when they saw the yellow water gushing out from the gourd in Yang Kuan's hand towards the Heavenly Emperor Palace. An aura of decay and death spread out from the yellow water. Even the void was corroded by the yellow water and was silently annihilated. When the yellow water sprayed onto the protective immortal light of the Heavenly Emperor Palace, it produced a sound like a piece of red-hot iron being dropped into cold water. The layer of immortal light actually emitted white smoke. The immortal runes on the immortal light immediately dimmed. Even the paragon-level immortal runes were corroded. What? This is really the yellow spring water. At this moment, no one had any doubts anymore. Only the most terrifying evil water in the world could have such power to corrode a paragon-level immortal rune. In fact, the yellow spring water could theoretically corrode everything in the world, regardless of whether it was an immortal item or a demonic item. This is bad. The experts in the Heavenly Emperor Palace couldn't help but be shocked. They didn't expect the Xianming sect to be able to find something like the yellow spring water. One should know that the yellow spring water could only be found in the netherworld. It was a terrifying evil water formed by the convergence of endless death chi. Where the endless death chi gathered, a trace of vitality could be produced and turned into sacred life essence. However, there were times when it couldn't be turned into life essence. Life essence and the yellow spring water were two extremes. One had endless vitality, while the other contained endless death chi. Rumble, the yellow spring water gushed out from the gourd in Elder Yang Kuan's hand and turned into a river that rushed towards the Heavenly Emperor Palace. The endless death chi kept corroding the layer of immortal light that enveloped the Heavenly Emperor Palace. The paragon-level immortal rune was being corroded and dimmed. It seemed like it would be corroded by the yellow spring water at any time. What should we do? Everyone in the Heavenly Emperor Palace panicked. One should know that the Xianming sect's 50,000 black demon soldiers were outside, and there were also 3 paragon-level existences holding the line. Such a force was definitely enough to sweep the Heavenly Emperor Palace. Hurry up and activate the teleportation formation. Let's escape. Someone shouted. Yes, retreat for now and preserve our strength. Someone nodded. You can't escape. There were also people with surging battle intent who wanted to fight alongside the Black Demon soldiers led by the Xianming Saintess. These people were all loyal to the primordial celestial the Arch. These people were not afraid of death. They wanted to perish together with the Xianming Saintess and the others. Are you stupid? What we need to do now is to preserve our strength and kill our way back. We can't sacrifice ourselves for nothing. Someone shouted. H. These are just excuses for cowards like you. Those who wanted to fight loudly berated. What preserving strength? It was all bullshit. The purpose of these people was just to survive. What a blockhead. He doesn't know how to be flexible at all. Someone said angrily. Let's go. If they want to die, then let them. Someone said disapprovingly. He would never perish together with the Heaven Emperor Palace. Nothing was more important than his own life. Haha, these fellows are really funny. Things have already come to this and they're still fighting amongst themselves. They're really a bunch of pigs. Black Tiger Daoist laughed heartily. Hearing Black Tiger Daoist's words, everyone in the Heaven Emperor Palace's expression changed. This was really not the time for internal strife. They had to unite against a common enemy. At this time, the battle between Yuan Hong and Immortal Venerable Ji had also reached its climax. Boom! With a loud sound, a figure broke through the ground and rushed out of the ground. His entire body was shrouded in divine light and immortal runes were circling around his body, emitting a terrifying immortal aura. Immortal Venerable Ji rushed out of the ground and was about to kill the Xianming Saintess and the others. However, at this time, a figure also broke through the ground and rushed out of the ground, blocking Immortal Venerable Gu's path. Your opponent is me. Yuan Hong held the golden staff in his hand and directly smashed it towards Immortal Venerable Gu's head. The golden staff was as heavy as a mountain, causing the void under it to tremble and crack continuously. Damned monkey, you're courting death. Immortal Venerable Ji said angrily. His body shook and figures rushed out of his body. A total of 9 figures stood around him. Boom! An incarnation soared into the sky and displayed endless immortal power, blocking the golden staff that smashed down from the sky. Yuan Hong only felt a strong force coming from the staff, causing his hands to go numb. The golden staff in his hand was almost sent flying. What? Yuan Hong's shock was no small matter. At this moment, the other 8 figures surrounded him, each of them giving off an incomparably powerful aura. Kill. Yuan Hong became stronger and stronger. He directly waved the golden staff in his hand and swept it at the figures. The powerful force shook the void and forced the 9 figures to retreat. He crazily injected the power of desolation into the golden staff in his hand. Buzz. The golden staff vibrated and 9 golden runes appeared on the golden staff, emitting an ancient and powerful aura. The true power of the golden staff was stimulated. This was a treasure of the Golden Spirit Ape clan. It was a weapon left behind by the Supreme Divine Ape and possessed great power. This is, when that Immortal Venerable Ji sensed the aura of the golden staff, his expression changed. The golden staff in his opponent's hand was actually an impressive divine weapon. The void collapsed and the ground sank. That Immortal Venerable Ji was directly sent flying by the power of the golden staff as he vomited large mouthfuls of blood. The 9 incarnations of that Immortal Venerable Ji were instantly destroyed by Yuan Hong's golden staff. Immortal Venerable Ji quickly retreated and dodged the golden staff. His expression was extremely ugly. What you? Hand over your life. Yuan Hong roared and charged forward. The golden staff in his hand emitted a resplendent golden beam. The 9 runes seemed like they were about to rush out of the golden staff. The aura of the great Tao was vast. Immortal Venerable Ji did not dare to clash head-on with Yuan Hong. The awakening of a supreme divine weapon was not something he could fight against. He did not want to die in such a useless manner. The speed of the two figures was extremely fast. Soon, immortal Venerable Jiyu and Yuan Hong's figures disappeared under the night sky, without a trace. Seeing that immortal Venerable Jiyu was defeated, the cultivators in the Heavenly Emperor Palace felt even more despair. While Yuan Hong was chasing after immortal Venerable Jiyu, in the depths of the Heavenly Emperor Palace, Jiyu Fei was struggling to contend against the supreme sword intent that erupted from the stone inscription. Swish! A sword light flashed. A bloody wound immediately appeared on Jiyu Fei's right shoulder. Blood seeped out from the wound. Even if his martial body was incomparably strong, it was still hard to heal in a short period of time. At this time, Jiyu Fei's body was already covered in blood. There were many wounds on his body, all caused by the supreme sword intent from the stone inscription. Preposterous. Jiyu Fei's current situation was not optimistic. It was not an easy task to take away that stone inscription. Bang! Jiyu Fei took another step forward. This step was incomparably heavy. At this time, his body emitted the power of the word nihility. Immortal runes were constantly being destroyed around him. At this time, he was only one step away from the stone inscription that was floating in the void. He could touch it just by reaching out his hand. However, the sword intent from the stone inscription was too powerful. Jiyu Fei only felt that there was a huge force blocking his way. He was only one step away, but he could no longer take that step. Buzz! The stone inscription trembled unceasingly. The supreme sword intent caused Jiyu Fei's heart to palpitate. He found it hard to believe that only 9 sword scars were left behind. Even someone as powerful as him could not approach it. How did the primordial Heavenly Emperor move this stone inscription here? Jiyu Fei was very curious. Jiyu Fei did not believe it. He directly used one of the 9 secrets of immortal Tao, the Ascension Secret Technique. An unimaginably powerful energy burst out from his body. He reached out with his right hand and struggled to grab the stone inscription in front of him. With the support of the Ascension Secret Technique, Jiyu Fei's right hand broke through the layers of power and finally grabbed the stone inscription. However, the moment Jiyu Fei's right hand grabbed the stone inscription, a world-destroying sword intent surged from the stone inscription into his body. Jiyu Fei coughed up a mouthful of blood. He felt a great impact as the sword intent ravaged his body. Roar! Jiyu Fei roared and endured it with all his might. At the same time, the power of the Ascension Secret Technique, one of the 9 secrets of immortal Tao, erupted from his body. The damaged body immediately began to repair itself. However, Jiyu Fei's body was still pierced by the sword light formed from the sword intent. His body constantly glowed with blood. Soon, Jiyu Fei's body was covered in blood. Even though he had used the Ascension Secret Technique, it was difficult for him to repair the damage caused by the sword intent. Jiyu Fei's situation was terrible. The terrifying sword intent that had invaded his body could destroy his body, martial body, and even his spirit at any time. Just as Jiyu Fei was in danger, the layer of immortal light covering the Heavenly Emperor Palace was finally corroded by the yellow spring water, creating a large hole. Haha, brats, it's time for you to die. When Daoist Black Tiger saw this scene, he shouted happily. Collect. Elder Yang Kuan slapped the bottom of the gourd. A heaven-devouring power rushed out of the gourd and absorbed the yellow spring water. Kill. The Xianming Holy Maiden did not hesitate. She led the Black Demon warriors and charged into the Heavenly Emperor Palace. Battle cries rang out from within the palace. At the same time, some people used the transportation formation to escape from the Heavenly Emperor Palace. These people claimed to be conserving their strength, but in reality, they were afraid of death and were unwilling to fight the Xianming Holy Maiden and the others. Chapter 2689. The Xianming Saintess led the Black Demon warriors and swept through the entire Celestial Emperor Palace. Very soon, all those who were loyal to the primordial Heavenly Emperor were killed. The Xianming sect did not expend much effort to occupy the entire Celestial Emperor Palace. Even the Xianming Saintess and the others were surprised. They thought that they would face fierce resistance. Rumble. Just as the Xianming Saintess occupied the Celestial Emperor Palace, Celestial City on the ground suddenly shook. A powerful sword intent erupted and an incomparably huge silhouette appeared in the sky above Celestial City. What's happening? The Xianming Saintess and the others in the Celestial Emperor Palace were extremely shocked. It was a vague silhouette, but the aura it emitted made even the saints palpitate. Countless people frantically escaped from Celestial City. Some of them couldn't escape in time and were directly killed by the sword light emitted from the city. This sword intent, the Xianming Saintess couldn't help but be extremely shocked. An unimaginable change had happened in Celestial City. Jiyu Fei and Xiaoqing seemed to still be in the city. Could it be them? The Xianming Saintess was shocked. At this moment, the silhouette in the sky above Celestial City gradually became clearer. It stood in the void just like that, but it was like a supreme being had appeared in the world. It's just a sword intent. How can it be so powerful? The Black Tiger Taoist and the other saints felt their souls trembling. The aura emitted by this silhouette frightened them to the extreme. It was as if a peerless divine sword was pressed against their throats. Those with weaker cultivations were already extremely frightened. They collapsed on the ground and couldn't even stand up. However, at this moment, Jiyu Fei encountered a great danger. The sword intent that erupted from the stone carving was unprecedentedly powerful. This sword intent actually wanted to invade his body. If this sword intent succeeded in seizing his body, he would become a walking corpse that only knew how to kill and become a peerless sword demon. Roar! Jiyu Fei raised his head and roared furiously. An incomparably sharp sword light shot out from his eyes, piercing through the void. The stone carving in his hand had already become dim and lusterless. Its surface was densely covered with cracks, as if it would shatter if he exerted more force. The sword intent on the stone inscription had already invaded Jiyu Fei's body. Preposterous. No matter who you are, you can't suppress me. My heart is invincible. Jiyu Fei roared in anger. His expression was malevolent as he contended against the sword intent in his body. Even if it was the sword intent left behind by a supreme being, it wouldn't be able to destroy his will. Rumble. Thunderous sounds came from within Jiyu Fei's body. His bones and tendons vibrated and let out thunderous sounds. 9 primal chaos Dao patterns appeared on his body and sealed him. A holy venerate level martial body and a holy venerate level primal chaos Dao pattern. When these two powers fused together, it was definitely not as simple as 1 + 1. However, even so, Jiyu Fei's martial body still emitted bloodlight from time to time. It was pierced by the sword intent, causing blood to splatter and stain the soil beneath his feet. This was the blood of a holy venerate. Moreover, it was the blood of a martial Dao holy venerate. It contained an enormous amount of essence qi. Every drop was comparable to a divine medicine. If an ordinary cultivator could refine a drop of blood essence, their cultivation would definitely improve tremendously. However, at this moment, Jiyu Fei's blood essence was constantly flowing out. To an ordinary cultivator, it was definitely a waste. This was all precious blood. I don't believe that I can't suppress a mere sword intent. Jiyu Fei was determined. With a thought, a black saber immediately rushed out from his body and floated above his head. A pitilessly violent and ferocious aura immediately spread out from the black saber. Roar! A dragon's roar seemed to resound in the void. The shadow of a huge dragon emerged from the black saber and let out a long roar towards the sky. At this time, Jiyu Fei had no choice but to use the peerless azure dragon saber. Under the impact of the invincible sword intent, the deity within the azure dragon saber actually showed signs of awakening. As soon as the peerless azure dragon saber appeared, the incomparably huge silhouette standing in the sky above Celestial City immediately became dim, as if it could disappear at any time. Roar! The black dragon soared into the sky and directly minced the illusory silhouette into pieces. Then, it let out a long roar towards the sky with unparalleled ferocity. In terms of ferocity, there were really not many creatures that could compare to the primordial azure dragon. The primordial azure dragon was a peerless ferocious dragon. That sword intent seemed to have its own consciousness. It actually restrained itself and hid within Jiyu Fei's body. However, the deity within the peerless azure dragon saber did not intend to let go of this sword intent. The huge dragon immediately swooped down from the sky and entered Ji Yufei's body. Crap! Ji Yufei was startled. He exerted force with his right hand and actually crushed the ancient stone inscription into dust. However, the most terrifying thing did not happen. The shadow of the dragon directly passed through his body and actually destroyed the consciousness of the sword intent that had just formed. Then, the peerless azure dragon saber turned into a black light and entered Ji Yufei's body. At this time, Ji Yufei was like a statue. He stood there motionlessly. After the peerless azure dragon saber destroyed the consciousness of the sword intent, a lot of things appeared in his mind. 9 heaven-punishing swords. Ji Yufei was incomparably excited. The 9 sword scars on the stone inscription were actually 9 kinds of invincible sword intent. They were called the 9 heaven-punishing swords. Every one of them had the power to destroy the world. He felt that the sword intent of the 9 heaven-punishing swords was somewhat similar to the soaring immortal sword of the primordial heavenly emperor. However, these 9 sword intents were even more mysterious and unfathomable than the soaring immortal sword of the primordial heavenly emperor. Ha ha, Ji Yufei was incomparably excited. The sword Dao of the primordial heavenly emperor was nothing in his eyes. The sword intent of the 9 heaven-punishing swords was definitely at the supreme level. Even if the true body of the primordial heavenly emperor came, Ji Yufei was still confident that he could slay him with his sword. Of course, this was only Ji Yufei's self-confidence. The true body of the primordial heavenly emperor was mysterious and unfathomable. No one knew how powerful his true body was. At this time, the incomparably terrifying sword intent disappeared completely. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. Big brother, are you all right? Xiaoqing rushed over from afar. He had been forced to retreat by the sword intent emanating from the stone inscription. Ha ha! How could anything happen to me? Ji Yufei laughed heartily. Come, let's work together to open the treasury and see what's inside. Ji Yufei hugged Xiaoqing tightly before letting him go. Big brother, where's the stone inscription? Xiaoqing discovered that the stone inscription containing the peerless sword intent had disappeared. It's under your feet. Ji Yufei pointed to the pile of dust under Xiaoqing's feet. What? This? Xiaoqing looked down and was shocked. The ancient stone inscription had actually turned into dust. How was this possible? It was too unbelievable. It must be known that from the aura emanating from the stone inscription, Xiaoqing knew that it had existed for countless years and hadn't been destroyed by the passage of time. All right, let's open the treasury first. Ji Yufei waved his right hand. A sword light immediately rushed out of his hand and slashed at the door of the treasury. Boom! With a loud bang, the door of the treasury was immediately split in half by the sword light that Ji Yufei had slashed out. A cloud of dust filled the air. After the dust settled, an entrance appeared in front of the two. A wave of spiritual energy spread out from the entrance. Colorful spiritual lights rushed out, illuminating the entire sky. At this time, it was the darkest time of the night, the time before the sun rose. Not bad. Ji Yufei nodded and walked in. Then, he was immediately stunned by what he saw. The treasury was filled with spiritual lights and divine materials, and medicines were simply placed on the wooden shelves. A 10,000-year-old Chinese knotweed in human form. Chaos spirit stones from outer space. And purple blood divine jade. Ji Yufei's eyes lit up. These things weren't common goods that could be found anywhere. These were all rare divine medicines and divine materials. Taking any divine material out of the treasury would probably cause a commotion. I've struck gold. After entering, Xiaoqing was also stunned by what he saw. The treasury was huge and was engraved with immortal Dao runes. There were rows of shelves filled with divine materials and divine medicines. These items should have been collected by the primordial heavenly the Arch. Now that the treasury of the primordial heavenly the Arch had been destroyed, the primordial heavenly the Arch would probably vomit blood in anger when he returned. But at this time, the true body of the ancient Yuan heavenly emperor was nowhere to be seen. It seemed that he wouldn't show up even if Ji Yufei and the others razed his lair to the ground. I'll give this treasury to you. Ji Yufei patted Xiaoqing's shoulder and said, Big brother, Are you serious? Xiaoqing was extremely excited. Even he couldn't estimate the value of such a treasury. However, he knew that some divine materials were priceless. Of course, I don't need these things, Ji Yufei said. He had obtained countless divine materials and divine medicines. Although the items in this treasury were rare and some had already gone extinct in the mortal realm, they were still extremely rare. However, Ji Yufei felt that the value of the 9 heaven punishing swords was comparable to this treasury. One should know that it was the sovereign sword Dao. Thank you, big brother, Xiaoqing hurriedly said. There's no need to thank me between you and me. Ji Yufei patted Xiaoqing's shoulder and walked out of the treasury. Arriving at the plaza of the Celestial City, he raised his head and smiled. Those fellows weren't slow at all. They took over the Celestial Palace so quickly. Ji Yufei muttered to himself. He took a step forward and instantly arrived at the Celestial Palace in the sky. Who's there? Someone shouted as soon as Ji Yufei appeared. Then, a silhouette flickered and a group of Black Fiend soldiers surrounded him. Stand down. The Xianming Saintess walked out at this time and berated the Black Fiend soldiers. The Black Fiend soldiers immediately dispersed and retreated to the side. Brother Ji Yu, I hope you won't take offense. Chapter 2690. Although the Sky Emperor Palace had been conquered by the Black Demon soldiers led by the Xianming Holy Maiden, some of the important places in the Sky Emperor Palace were protected by Holy Venerate array formations. The Xianming Holy Maiden and the others would not be able to break through them in a short time. To some extent, the Celestial Palace in the sky was even more important than the Celestial City on the ground. That was the true residence of the Celestial Emperor. The Heavenly Emperor Palace was built on the peak of a divine mountain that floated high in the sky. With this divine mountain as the leader, there were 8 smaller divine mountains floating in the void around it. The 9 sacred mountains formed a large array formation that protected the Sky Emperor Palace. Of course, the large array formation had already been destroyed by the mysterious underworld Saintess and the others. When Ji Yufei arrived at the Heavenly Emperor Palace, the mysterious underworld Saintess quickly came out to welcome him. You guys sure are fast. Ji Yufei looked around and said. In the huge Heavenly Emperor Palace, scarlet bloodstains could be seen everywhere. Broken weapons were scattered all over the ground. What used to be a holy land had now become a surer hell. No one had expected that the Heavenly Emperor Palace would be breached. Everyone watching the battle was shocked to the extreme. However, what puzzled them was that the true body of the primordial Heavenly the Arch had yet to appear. Even Ji Yufei had to admire the primordial Celestial the Arch for being able to keep his composure even after his lair had been destroyed. If it wasn't for you, brother Ji Yu, there wouldn't be a day where our Xianming sect could rise again. The Xianming Saintess said seriously. If it hadn't been for Ji Yufei, they wouldn't have had the chance to make a comeback even if they waited for thousands of years. One had to know that the power of the primordial Heavenly Emperor was too enormous. Apart from the primordial Heavenly Emperor, there were actually 2 other Heavenly Venerables guarding Celestial City and the Heavenly Emperor Palace. If it weren't for Ji Yufei and Yuan Hong fighting against the 2 Saint Venerables, any one of them could have wiped out the remaining forces of the Xianming sect. I'm not helping you. I also have some enmity with that old man Yuan Ji Yu. The Heavenly Emperor Palace was breached by you guys, but the treasury of the Heavenly Emperor Palace was not breached by you guys. How about this? I'll break the treasury and we'll split the treasures in half. Ji Yufei said. I'll leave everything up to brother Ji Yu. The mysterious underworld Saintess said without hesitation. Ji Yufei's power had already exceeded her expectations. Even if she hadn't led the mysterious underworld sect's black demon soldiers to attack the Sky Emperor Palace, given Ji Yufei's cultivation base and combat strength, he would definitely have been able to attack the Sky Emperor Palace. Yes. Ji Yufei nodded and walked towards the depths of the Heavenly Emperor Palace. There was an aura of decay and death coming from there. Elder Yang Kuan was using the yellow spring water to corrode the grand formation outside the Heavenly Emperor Palace's treasury, trying to break it open. Elder Yang, you may leave for now. When Ji Yufei and the Xianming Saintess arrived, the Xianming Saintess immediately ordered Elder Yang Kuan. Yes. Elder Yang Kuan put away the underworld gourd, and the terrifying aura of decay and death immediately disappeared. He held the underworld gourd and retreated to the side. The formation outside the treasury was at the Holy Venerate level, so it should have been created by the ancient Celestial Emperor. The ancient Celestial Emperor was very suspicious, so he naturally had to set up such an important place himself. Without any hesitation, Jiyu Fei stepped forward and stretched out his right hand, activating the secret word of Wu. The power of the secret word of Wu immediately surged out from his hand and shrouded the great formation in front of him. Buzz! The void trembled and a layer of Immortal Path divine light appeared in the void in front of him. Immortal Path runes circulated and intertwined on the layer of Immortal Path divine light. An incomparably powerful Immortal Path aura surged forward, but it was blocked by Jiyu Fei. In the next moment, a scene that shocked the mysterious underworld saintess and the others appeared. The immortal light that Elder Yang Kuan had tried so hard to break quickly dimmed and disappeared into the void, as if it had never been there. This, Yang Kuan and Black Tiger Daoist glanced at each other and saw a trace of fear in each other's eyes. Jiyu Fei was really too heaven-defying. They were in awe of Jiyu Fei, so they couldn't help but be cautious in front of Jiyu Fei. The Great Elder was really unlucky to have offended such an existence. Being crippled was the result of him being blind. Black Tiger Daoist and Yang Kuan couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat when they thought about the Great Elder's fate. However, after the layer of immortal light was destroyed by Jiyu Fei, another layer of immortal light emerged. This layer of immortal light was different from the previous one. When this layer of immortal light emerged, it emitted a sonorous sound. The Immortal Path runes on the immortal light rapidly evolved and turned into a dazzling sword light that pierced towards Jiyu Fei and the others. It was as if thousands of heavenly swords had been unsheathed at the same time. It was extremely sharp. Seeing this scene, the Xianming Saintess and the others were startled. This was a holy venerable level sword light. Each one of them could cut them into pieces. The Xianming Saintess and the others subconsciously retreated when they saw the eruption of the sword light. However, at this time, Jiyu Fei had already stretched out his right hand and pressed forward. Then, a shocking scene appeared. Jiyu Fei's right hand was like a bottomless black hole, sucking in all of the sword lights, causing them to disappear into his hand. The power of the secret word of nothing erupted in Jiyu Fei's hand and dissolved everything. Even the sword Dao formation that the primordial Emperor's yarn had imprinted in the void was also destroyed. This was the power of the secret word of nothing. No matter how heaven-defying your runes were, they would still be turned into nothingness. Not even ashes would be left behind. They would completely disappear from this world. Another layer of formation was broken. However, after the sword formation was broken, another layer of formation was activated. This formation was even more powerful than the sword formation and was also an offensive formation. Buzz! The immortal runes revolved and a pitch-black hole appeared in the void in front of everyone. A heaven-devouring power surged out of the black hole and actually pulled the Xianming Saintess and the others behind Jiyu Fei into the black hole. Jiyu Fei took a step forward and directly punched. The powerful force shook the black hole and the heaven-devouring power that surged out of the black hole immediately weakened. The Xianming Saintess and the others hurriedly retreated. Black Tiger Taoist and Yang Kuan were already pale with fear. The Xianming Saintess' face was covered, but her eyes were also filled with fear. They had underestimated the Heavenly Emperor Palace. This was the residence of a holy venerable level Celestial Emperor. Some places were protected by formations and couldn't go anywhere. Elder Yang Kuan was even more frightened. Fortunately, the first layer of formation was not an offensive formation. Otherwise, he would have died long ago. Jiyu Fei made a decisive move and directly used absolute power to disperse the black hole in front of him. Then, he continued to break the formation. Chapter 2691. The final seal of the Heavenly Emperor Palace's treasury was incomparably powerful, but it was still broken by Jiyu Fei. It had to be said that the treasury of the Heavenly Emperor Palace was much larger than the treasury of the Celestial Emperor City. Jiyu Fei couldn't help but be moved when he entered the treasury. The treasury of the Heavenly Emperor Palace was filled with rare divine materials, including the phoenix stone and the precious sun elixir. The phoenix stone wasn't a real stone, but something similar to a Buddhist relic left behind by the ancient divine beast, the phoenix, after it underwent nirvana. This kind of thing was rare since ancient times, so it wasn't easy to find one. However, there was actually a fist-sized phoenix stone in the treasury. This was a good item. The phoenix was a divine beast of the fire element, so this phoenix stone would be of great benefit to Jiyu Ling. Jiyu Fei didn't think twice before putting it away. The precious sun elixir was also a rare divine material. It was a kind of precious liquid derived from the core of the sun, and it was also a precious liquid of the fire element. It could be used to temper the physical body and change the physique of a cultivator. Jiyu Fei also put away the precious sun elixir. He wandered around the huge treasure vault and took away the divine materials he needed. The Xianming Saintess and the others, who were following behind him, felt their hearts ache when they saw this. However, they knew that if it wasn't for Jiyu Fei, they wouldn't have been able to break the seal of the treasury and enter it. The Xianming Saintess and the others didn't dare to say anything. Suddenly, Jiyu Fei noticed that there were rays of golden light floating in a corner of the treasury. They were golden holy swords. Every single one of the swords was sharp and radiating with golden light. He counted them carefully and found that there were 108 golden swords. Moreover, they weren't floating in the void in a disorderly manner. A sword formation. Jiyu Fei immediately noticed that these 108 golden sacred swords were arranged in different directions to form a sword formation. 108 divine swords forming a sword formation shocked the Xianming Saintess and the others. It was hard to imagine that someone had spent so much effort to set up such a sword formation. One had to know that it was not so easy to refine 108 golden light swords. These were all saint-rank divine swords. This must be the masterpiece of an ancient sword saint. Jiyu Fei guessed. Then, he put away the sword formation. The mysterious underworld saintess and the others were also envious of this sword formation. However, they did not dare say anything and could only watch as Jiyu Fei took away the 108 golden swords. Although there were many divine materials and sacred weapons in the Heavenly Emperor Palace's treasury, there weren't many that caught Jiyu Fei's attention and were taken away. He only took a dozen divine materials and sacred artifacts before leaving the rest for the Xianming Saintess and the others. This surprised and delighted the Xianming Saintess and the others. They had never imagined that Jiyu Fei would be so generous as to give them the rest of the divine materials and sacred artifacts. With these divine materials and sacred artifacts, the strength of the mysterious underworld sect would definitely increase greatly. Even if the remnants of the primordial heavenly the Arch wanted to counterattack, the mysterious underworld sect would at least be able to protect themselves. They might even be able to kill all the invading enemies. The mysterious underworld sect would then have the confidence to unify the Eastern Territory. Jiyu Fei's ambitions weren't in the Eastern Territory, but the mysterious underworld sect was still facing a great threat. Although they had conquered the Heavenly Emperor Palace, the mysterious underworld sect would face a tragic end once the primordial Heavenly the Arch returned. However, this wasn't something that Jiyu Fei could handle. He didn't want to either. He wasn't the guardian of the mysterious underworld sect, so he had no obligation to do anything for the mysterious underworld sect. They're still fighting. Jiyu Fei left the Heavenly Emperor Palace and suddenly looked into the distance. A moment later, he disappeared into the void. Boom! Bam! In the depths of a mountain range 10,000 miles away from the Heavenly Emperor Palace, two silhouettes were moving at high speed. They were engaged in an intense battle. Terrifying heavenly venerate aura spread in all directions. The golden spirituality ape Yuan Hong was fighting against the ancient immortal. The ancient immortal was definitely a terrifying and powerful ancient war immortal. His cultivation base and combat strength weren't something an ordinary immortal venerable could compare to. However, the golden spirit ape race was also a famous battle race that had been established since ancient times. Yuan Hong and this Jiyu Zhonxian could be said to be at loggerheads. Roar! Yuan Hong roared in rage. The golden cudgel in his hands swept out, and the ferocious force of the cudgel caused Jiyu Zhonxian to be flung through the air. Boom! A mountain peak was smashed apart. The mountain range was in chaos. Smoke and dust billowed. Kill. A loud shout was heard from the smoke. A silhouette rushed out and instantly appeared in front of Yuan Hong. A battle spear pierced through the void, aiming at Yuan Hong's glabella. Clang. Yuan Hong swept the golden rod in his hand, sweeping the battle spear to the side. Swoosh. At this moment, 9 rays of immortal light rushed out from Jiyu Zhanxian's body, turning into supreme sword shadows that slashed towards Yuan Hong. Each sword shadow emitted terrifying sword chi. In a close combat situation, the 9 sword shadows that rushed out from Jiyu Zhanxian's body were extremely fast. All of them slashed onto Yuan Hong's body. However, something unexpected happened. The 9 sword shadows that were comparable to sacred swords were all shattered when they slashed onto Yuan Hong's body. A battle robe that was completely woven from runes appeared on Yuan Hong's body. The 9 sword shadows could not break through this battle robe and were shattered in the air by the vast power of the great path that emanated from the battle robe. The sacred robe of the golden spirituality ape race. Jiyu Zhanxian was shocked. At this moment, Yuan Hong's fist had already landed on Jiyu Zhanxian's shoulder, sending him flying backwards. The sound of bones breaking rang out from his shoulder. However, at Jiyu Zhanxian's level of cultivation, regenerating flesh and bones was not a difficult task. When Jiyu Zhanxian steadied himself, the wound on his shoulder was already completely healed. It was as if he was never injured in the first place. He was still as strong as ever, and his battle intent was still as strong as ever. When Jiyu Fei approached, although Yuan Hong had already gained the upper hand, it was difficult for him to suppress this rare opponent. "Do you need help?" Jiyu Fei asked Yuan Yin. "No need, I can take him down." Yuan Hong was very direct and domineering. He directly rushed towards Jiyu Zhanxian, who was sent flying away. Jiyu Zhanxian had also noticed Jiyu Fei's presence. "Who are you?" Jiyu Zhanxian transmitted his voice to Jiyu Fei. "Jiyu Fei." Jiyu Fei didn't hide anything. There was no need for him to hide anything. With his current cultivation level and strength, he no longer needed to fear anyone in the heaven realm. Plus, he had the saint weapon in his hands. "Very well, I will remember it." Jiyu Zhanxian didn't hesitate. He tore open the void and rushed into the chaotic void, trying to escape. "Where do you think you're going?" Chapter 2692. Jiyu Zhanxian saw that the situation was bad and immediately tore through the void to escape into the chaos. Yuan Hong naturally wouldn't allow Jiyu Zhanxian to escape so easily. After that, he also broke through the void and chased after Jiyu Zhanxian into the chaos. Seeing this, Jiyu Fei was a little surprised. Yuan Hong's silhouette disappeared into the chaos. In the end, even his aura couldn't be sensed anymore. Jiyu Fei didn't chase into the chaos. He had no choice but to turn around and leave. When Jiyu Fei returned to the Heavenly Emperor Palace, he found that Old Tortoise was here. There were at least a dozen powerful demonic auras in the vicinity. Those were the demonic auras emitted by the experts of the demonic race. "Haha, brother, you're really something." Old Tortoise laughed heartily as he came out from the Heavenly Emperor Palace. "You came so fast." Jiyu Fei was a little surprised to see Old Tortoise. "Knowing that you're here, how would I dare not come?" Old Tortoise laughed heartily and hugged Jiyu Fei tightly. "Boss," at this time, a burly man in battle armor walked out from behind Old Tortoise. This man was very excited to see Jiyu Fei. "You are Fire Kirin Bullon." Jiyu Fei couldn't help being startled when he saw this man. But he quickly recognized him, as well as his true identity. This man was the Fire Kirin Bullon that Jiyu Fei subdued back then. "Ancestor." At this moment, a fair and chubby little fatty walked out of the Heaven Emperor Palace. As soon as the little fatty saw Jiyu Fei, he immediately ran up to him and hugged Jiyu Fei's thigh. With tears and snot streaming down his face, he told Jiyu Fei about his experiences in the Heaven Realm all these years. "Jiyu Xiaofeng." Jiyu Fei grabbed the little fatty's collar and lifted him up. This little guy looked exactly like Jiyu Zhong when he was young. "Ancestor, I don't want to stay in the heavenly realm anymore. I want to go home," Jiyu Xiaofeng said while crying. Ever since he came to the heaven realm, He had been living in fear every day because Old Tortoise would train him from time to time. You seem to be doing well in the heaven world. You're already a supreme expert. If you were in the lower world, I'm afraid you wouldn't even be an immortal emperor. Jiu Fei put the little fatty aside. Grandmaster, I really don't want to stay in the heaven realm. I miss my father and mother. Little fatty begged. This, Jiu Fei looked at Old Tortoise and did not know what to do. You little brat, other people want to enter the heaven realm no matter how hard they try. But you actually want to go down to the lower realms. You are truly infuriating me to death. Old Tortoise said in disappointment. Grandmaster, I haven't seen my parents for hundreds of years. The little fatty was afraid of this Grandmaster. He wanted nothing more than to run away from him, because recently, this Grandmaster seemed to have his eyes on him again. If this Grandmaster wanted to train him again, he would be played to a pulp by this Grandmaster. The little fatty was really afraid of being trained by his Grandmaster. Old Tortoise, look, Jiu Fei also knew that he had brought Jiu Xiaofeng to the heaven realm and separated him from his parents for hundreds of years. Jiu Xiaofeng was really homesick, and Jiu Fei also felt guilty. After all, he was the one who brought Jiu Xiaofeng to the heaven realm. Sigh, forget it, I'll return this little brat to you. Old Tortoise waved his hand impatiently and said, Aha, I am free now. At this time, the little fatty Jiu Xiaofeng stopped crying and roared angrily. He felt that the snot and tears were just an act. Little brat, Old Tortoise raised his leg and kicked the little fatty away like a ball. The little fatty disappeared into the horizon. Grandmaster, help! The little fatty's heart-wrenching cry came from afar. Serves you right. Old Tortoise ignored the little fatty and brought Jiu Fei into the heavenly emperor palace as if this was his old nest. This made the Xianming Saintess and the others a little unhappy. However, the Xianming Saintess and the others also knew that the old tortoise that Jiu Fei mentioned was the current demon lord of the Heaven Realm demon clan. This demon lord had always been domineering and protective. When Old Tortoise arrived, the Xianming Saintess and the others were even more shocked and uneasy. After entering the Heavenly Emperor Palace, Old Tortoise sat on the throne in the middle of the hall. Even Jiu Fei could only sit below him. Although the Xianming Saintess and the others were unhappy, they did not dare to show it. After all, Old Tortoise's fist was much stronger than theirs. In the cultivation world, the strong preyed on the weak. Whoever had the hardest fist was the boss. Now, Old Tortoise's fist was the hardest, so he could dominate everything. Even if Old Tortoise wanted the people of the Xianming sect to get lost, they would not dare to say no. After a while, the little fatty stuck his head out of the door and looked around. Brother, you are too ruthless. Why did you come to Yuan Gu's lair to undergo your tribulation? Old Tortoise ignored the little fatty and continued talking to Jiu Fei. It's nothing. I just had a sudden impulse. Jiu Fei waved his hand as if nothing had happened. Although he had said it casually, everyone present knew that Jiu Fei's actions were absolutely crazy. If he had been careless, he would have been consigned to eternal damnation. No one had dared to do this, but Jiu Fei had done it and succeeded. You! Old Tortoise laughed. The stronger Jiu Fei was, the better it was for the demon clan. After all, he and Jiu Fei were brothers who had experienced life and death together. Master, big brother. At that moment, Xiaoqing suddenly walked in from outside. Come and sit. Jiu Fei called out to Xiaoqing. Yes, big brother. Xiaoqing walked over to Jiu Fei and sat down next to Jiu Fei. Jiu Fei, let's talk about how to divide Yuan Gu's territory. How about it? Old Tortoise looked at Jiu Fei and said. Haha, you've finally revealed your fox's tail. No wonder you came here so quickly. It seems like you're here to occupy my territory. Jiu Fei pointed at Old Tortoise and laughed. How about it? Old Tortoise asked. Yuan Gu's territory is not that easy to divide. Jiu Fei said seriously. Yuan Gu's real body was still there. Who knew when he would suddenly return? This was a great threat. I know what you mean. I really don't care about Yuan Gu. Old Tortoise was full of confidence. He had the ultimate demon weapon Great Sovereign Seal, so he could do whatever he wanted in the heaven realm. There were not many people in the heaven realm who could be his opponent. In that case, do as you see fit, Jiyu Fei said. However, the mysterious dark sect broke through the heavenly emperor palace. Therefore, you have to leave a piece of land for the mysterious dark sect to rebuild. What do you think? Jiyu Fei continued. At that moment, the mysterious dark saintess looked at Jiyu Fei gratefully. The ancient heavenly emperor's territory was huge. Given the mysterious dark sect's strength, it was impossible for them to completely take over such a huge territory. Moreover, the other powerful forces in the heaven realm had been eyeing the eastern territory for a long time. The mysterious dark sect could not compete with them. All right, I agree. Old Tortoise thought about it and agreed. The matter was settled very quickly. The mysterious dark sect would rebuild the mysterious dark sect in the area that Old Tortoise had given them, while the heavenly emperor palace was given to Old Tortoise. This matter was beyond everyone's expectations. The demon race in the heaven realm had actually taken over the ancient heavenly emperor's territory. This shocked the other forces to the extreme. No one dared to jump out and compete with Old Tortoise for the ancient heavenly emperor's territory. This allowed the demon race in the heaven realm to pick up a huge bargain. After all, the other super forces in the heaven realm had been eyeing the eastern territory covetously for a long time. No one had thought that this would be the result. Little fatty, get your ass in here. After the discussion, Old Tortoise waved at Jiyu Xiaofeng, who had been pacing back and forth outside the gate. At this moment, the little fatty ran in from the outside. You little brat, you will follow your martial ancestor from now on. Don't think that following your martial ancestor is a good thing. I believe that your martial ancestor is better than me. Ha ha, Old Tortoise said to the little fatty. It can't be. The little fatty immediately became dejected. He had just escaped from the wolf's lair, only to fall into the tiger's lair. Oh my God. Who can save me? All right, your martial ancestor is just trying to scare you. Jiyu Fei glared at Old Tortoise and said, Brother, what do you plan to do next? Old Tortoise ignored the little fatty and asked Jiyu Fei. Well, I'm going to pick up 2 people. Jiyu Fei thought for a moment and said, Who? Old Tortoise asked curiously. Your sister-in-law and niece. Jiyu Fei did not hide it. What? You have a daughter? When Old Tortoise heard this, he stood up from his seat abruptly and looked at Jiyu Fei in shock. When did this guy get married? He even has a daughter. The Xianming Holy Maiden was a little disappointed. Although I'm a warrior, I'm also a normal man. Isn't it normal for me to get married and have children? Is there a need to be so surprised? Jiyu Fei said disapprovingly. Let's go. I'll go with you to pick them up. Old Tortoise was very curious. What kind of extraordinary woman could catch the eye of Jiyu Fei and even give birth to a daughter for Jiyu Fei? In the end, Old Tortoise handed over the task of taking over the territory of the primordial celestial emperor to Xiaoqing. Then, he took the fire Qilin Bulon and Jiyu Fei to a teleportation array in the Heavenly Emperor Palace and left the Heavenly Emperor Palace. Soon, Jiyu Fei and the others appeared on a teleportation array platform in a big city in the Nanling Mountains. The fact that they had crossed over made all the experts in the city feel very uneasy. The auras they emitted were just too powerful. I didn't know that the seniors had come to Nantian City. Please forgive me for not going out to meet you,